There are 270 plus people waiting for this thing to go live. I am not starting anything tonight until I get confirmation back from you that you can see me clearly and you can hear me clearly. We're not starting tonight. It's a big night. We're not starting it tonight with me on mute. So as soon as I get some confirmation back that everything is good and you can see and hear me, we can start things. Audio is good, Roy. Audio is good. All fine. Let's get started. Hello, whiskey folk. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Fantastic. That's the most amount of people I think I've had to let in the pub doors this early on. It's fantastic to see you all here. There must be something happening tonight. There must be something big to talk about, some news. Fantastic to welcome you all. I hope you're all doing very well. I hope you've got something nice in your glass, and I hope it might be something that you would put forward and suggest that it's worthy of us all celebrating, something that you would consider to be amongst the best in whiskey. And of course, that's the theme throughout tonight. That's exactly what this vPub is all about. You might see behind me, I've got a different background tonight. No vPub compass, no whiskey bottles in the backdrop. There's no brands or anything on display here. This is fully to focus on one thing and one thing only, and that's the whiskies that we have collaborated as 24 channels coming together to try and work out what we would suggest are the best whiskies to put forward in 8 different categories for the first ever, the inaugural online Scotch Whisky Awards. That's what we're going to be sharing with you tonight. Ralfy is in the building. He's going to be joining us in a few minutes, but first I'm going to jump in and welcome some dedicated whiskey folk and beautiful barflies the opposite way around this week. Bill Monteith has bought me a dram already. Bill, thank you so much. Cheers, Roy and Ralfy. I feel overdressed in my tux. Here's to a great nominations show. Cheers to you, Bill. Thank you so much. Fantastic. Jonathan Flowers has also joined me in support of the Aquaviti barflies. Any barflies that do, that's how this thing is funded, partially funded with the support within Patreon, of course, but also the barflies here on YouTube. It keeps the vPub ad-free. It means that if you're dropping in and picking up on the replay, we can all say thank you very, very much for that. You will find afterwards I've put in timestamps so you can skip ahead to the salient points on the replay. But it'll mean you're not sitting through ads when you do that as well. So I hope you appreciate that. You can say thanks to all the barflies that support by clicking that join button down below. And barflies, there are a couple of new emojis for you to play with to colour up the chat and thing tonight. I hope you have fun with them. Welcome, Jonathan, and thanks very much, Bill. Thanks to you both. Neil Averty's here, David Owen, Molasses, The Last Drop, Chris, fantastic, Chris, Tim Hoekstra, Whiskey 101, Tom Powell. Tom, that looks like a new name. You're very welcome here. Daniel Vermaas, Max Kreitner, Graham Fraser, fantastic to see you all. Zofer 1920, another new name, fantastic, good to see you in, my friend. Andrew Butler, Chuck Malt Minion, Danny Hebbington, superb Danny, superb. Kresimir, the sniper, is in Whiskey Central. Shayla, who's holidaying in Europe right now, she's in Portugal, one of our contributing channels, of course, as is Whiskey Novice Jim in Northern Ireland. He's here too. Ebhead Rolf is in as well. Fantastic. So great to see all of you. I'm just seeing my friend Phil from New Zealand. Phil, I don't know if you're here for the duration, but I'm going to add you as a wee moderator tonight, just in case we have any unwanted attention due to the size of the stream tonight. Fantastic. Also, I've had a wee dram in from my friend. It just clicked past me there. Greg, Watchman 999 is in. Here's to a great evening. Slancha to the organisers. Greg, thank you so much for your super chat. I'll do my very best. You found your emojis. Fantastic. I hope Ralphie can see that, and I hope he's getting a kick out of that as well. Sandy McDonald has bought me a dram as well. Thank you so much, Sandy, saying looking forward to this. Let's not dwell too much tonight. This is a vPub. It is a vPub, but I've dedicated the whole night to one thing and one thing only, and that's this thing that we've been working on since March this year. It is important, and as the weeks and months have gone on, I've realized just how important it is, not because of the big title and the thing and what we're doing here, but the fact that it is really one of these cool things of all these channels coming together. And we stopped at 24. There's an argument we shouldn't have. We should have opened it up for more, and we're going to do that in the future. We'll talk more about that a wee bit later. We've stopped at 24 because it became administratively difficult. But there's ways to add layers in there and involve more channels inside YouTube, and even extend it outside of YouTube to other digital creators, whether you're putting together a blog, whether you're involved in Instagram or you're in Facebook groups, whatever it may be. If you feel that this is a good concept that you want to support, go to the oswa.co.uk website and use the volunteer form under the contributors page. You'll see it there. I hope that you find that something you want to get involved with and support in the future. Highland Hamish is already shouting, bring on the Ralfy. Fantastic, Hamish. Good to see you, my friend. Good to have you in. Yes, having 24 channels coming together in order to refine these whiskies with no intervention from myself or Ralfy. This is not the Roy and Ralfy show. It's not the Ralfy show. It's not the Roy show. This is a representation of what all of those channels refined in collaboration. I'll tell you how the process worked. I'll tell you how we arrived at tonight's nominations. I think it's going to be interesting for everybody to understand the mechanics behind this thing. But what we're doing tonight is we're getting together to hand it over to you now, to the whiskey community. Why? Because you know more than us. Of course you do. Every week, I'm taken aback by just how much knowledge exists in our community. And it's bi-directional. It's not just us shouting it to you. You're feeding back to us. You're guiding us. You're correcting us when we make inevitable mistakes. So how do we harness that knowledge and experience? How do we hold it up and use it in a practical way? Well, we celebrate the whiskey that we're all enjoying as a community. That's one idea, isn't it? That's what we're trying to do. Best intentions. We're sure there will be some technical hitches, but it seems to be working okay so far. And we've managed to break down all the barriers that we've come across up until now. Hopefully you'll be able to work with us and you'll see the spirit that this is intended, and we'll all be able to celebrate it and celebrate the best in whiskey and celebrate the community that we've built in the online space, which is really one of the things that I feel most privileged to be part of. Jimmy Legg is saying 509 people. My goodness, Jimmy, that's amazing. I'm glad you're here, my friend. It's good to see you in. That's the first time the vPub has broken 500 people. It's wonderful to welcome everybody. Let's not dwell. Let's raise a wee glass to welcome you all. Say thank you all for your support. Thank you for being here, and thanks to all of you for your fantastic messages of support, and good luck for tonight. I'm looking forward to this. Cheers, everyone. Let's reach out to my friend and sidekick on this project you've been working on since March. Working with Ralfy over the last few months, and I mentioned this to him in our last conversation that struck me. When it comes to whiskey, we find very little to disagree about, which has been quite fantastic. It's meant this whole process has been really quite easy. And in order for us to get our heads together and solve the problems and work out what the next step is going to be, has been an absolute pleasure. So I would like to welcome in my friend and sidekick from the Bothy, from somewhere over in the Irish Sea, Ralfy Mitchell. Let's bring Ralfy in. How are you doing, sir? How are you doing?
I don't want you seeing me with a cup of tea. Where's my dram?
With a cup of tea.
That's better. Oh, thank you very much. Can I ask you a wee question here, Roy? This vPub,
yes.
vPub is kind of, you know, it's a bit of an institution now. Is there any chance I can book a seat in the snug that's just my seat, nobody's allowed to sit in?
Perfect. The Ralfy Snug, we'll call it. I can imagine the scene. It's a perfect spot for you. You're welcome here every time. And I think you'll be able to park yourself in that very seat, all things being well.
Right. right?
COVID dependent, of course, on the 6th of November when we get together, hopefully in the same space, in order to announce the winners and the ceremony of this thing.
Right.
But welcome. Welcome
thank
behind the
you.
virtual bar tonight, buddy. Welcome. And here,
Thanks very much.
always really nice to have you. The Ralfy effect is happening here. That's why we're so busy tonight, because we don't often get to hang out with you live. So I appreciate you stepping up to help me with the nominations tonight. Marcel Beermeister has bought us a dram tonight. Thank you, Marcel. Thank you so much. I know I'm going to be missing these. Rob Halford has joined the Aquavite Barflies. Welcome, Rob. Fantastic to have all your support. I hope I'm not going to be missing too much of these gestures of support that comes in. Tanner has bought us a dram exactly the whiskey community needs. Thank you, Tanner. Thank you so much for that generous dram and for your words of support. And Alex has also joined the Aquavite Barflies. Alex, I hope you enjoy using the emojis. One of our contributing channels has dropped in with a wee dram for us, Ralfy. Jeremy, a friend of yours as well. Thanks to you and Ralfy for starting what I assume will be the most creditable whiskey award event amongst avid whiskey fans. Cheers. Jeremy, you star, thank you so much. Thank you for being a part of this. All of the channels, Ralfy, have stepped forward without any caveats, conditions, or questions. They just jumped straight in. It's wonderful on YouTube that we are so supportive of each other when you consider we should be competing and we're not. Danny Hebbington has bought us a dram as well. Good evening, Sir Ralfy Mitchell. And Mamuka 1977 has also bought a wee dram as well without a comment. I'll try and keep up with it as much as I can. Ralfy, tell us, this is your idea. You came to me at March and dropped a bomb in my lap and asked how it might work. Yes. Where did you get the idea from? Where has this come from?
Right, it's come from a number of directions, Roy, and like so many ideas, it's all very well having something that seems tangible, but it needs to have a life of its own. It needs to have its moment in time, which is the right time for it. And I think this moment in time has arrived for a number of reasons, including the fact that the online video-based whiskey community has now got experience and a certain amount of collective maturity in delivering content and value to malt mates around the world. And also recently, and it's still ongoing, is a global pandemic which caused a sudden and unexpected lockdown with global proportions, in which most outside activities relating to whiskey were suspended until further notice, which caused a significant migration of whiskey-related activity online. And I certainly saw my channel grow, and it's still growing as a result of that. And I think that the whole situation took the whiskey industry collectively by surprise, but those who swiftly adapted to the retailers encouraging and developing their online sales, to the distilleries making their distillery-only bottlings available through the specialist retailers to give customers access who simply wouldn't be able to visit the distillery. All these things have added up. And also the fact that, as you commented, and I've been writing down stuff here, Roy, you commented,
I wouldn't imagine anything else.
Yeah, you commented earlier in your introduction that whiskey, people are much more informed about whiskey. People are self-educating to a degree which has never been methodically and consciously done to the same degree in the past. And the great educator has been the internet. And it's not just those who put themselves out there as educators and information sharers and entertainers like ourselves, but it's the fact that malt mates, people who are interested in whiskey, have graduated beyond passive consumption of brand-led offerings, which are frequently heavily marketed and then discounted and available in supermarkets and travel retail outlets and airports and such like. People have become much more self-educated, and in doing so have become at a much more rapid pace. become more self-confident in personal tastes, and an acute understanding of what quality actually is in terms of quality spirits, whether it be whiskey or anything else. And an important part of this discovery and lesson is people making bad buys. Everybody's done it. You've done it. I've done it in the past. And we learn so much from misspending our money that we want to make sure that we don't go through that awkward experience again, which is why we go online, we communicate with people, we pick up information, and it helps us to narrow down and focus on what quality is. And this has been one of the main reasons for developing the online Scotch Whisky Awards, which is specifically the online community, not just Roy, not just Ralfy, not just one individual or two or even three individuals, but a collective consciousness.
That's right. Everybody that's involved in the Scotch whisky sharing on YouTube and the community, we're all clearly founded in Scotch. Our content, while we are a wee bit whiskey promiscuous, we do like to explore other areas and avenues. Our comfort zone is Scotch. The community that we connect with tend to be focused on Scotch as well. But at the same time, just to be clear, this is not all about Scotch. Because we are whiskey promiscuous, these awards have been set up as well to include other whiskey categories, because Ralph and I both feel that nothing guarantees the best quality in Scotch more than good quality coming from other categories. Jimmy Legg has bought us a dram saying, here's to the best two men in whiskey. I don't know who you're referring to, Jimmy. That's probably yourself and Jim Whiskey Novice. Thank you, my friend. It's always good to have you here. Matthias Kraszewski, sorry, Matthias, if I'm making any sense. Cheers to you and Ralphie. Amazing initiative. Thank you for your virtual drama, friend. I'm going to miss some of these. I'm going to try my very, very best not to. Luke Challoner has said, good evening, Roy and Ralphie. Looking forward to the stream. Good to have you here, Luke. Looks like a new name, my friend. Whiskey Malt Content. Superb to see you and my friend. Hi, guys. Another great vPub. Thanks, Roy. Thanks, Ralphie. Vlad. Superb, my friend. John Bingham has bought a dram to say thanks for organising and driving quality to distilleries who still care about us customers. Fantastic. Good to see you. I think I've just about caught up. So let me go back to what you were saying there and ask you, Ralphie, was it then the pandemic that solidified this idea, or was it, to quote you, what you've just been talking about at length there, the fact that you mentioned, this is your quote, whiskytube has grown up? Is it those two things coming together at the same time that's cemented, that's planted this seed in your head? Where did this come from?
Yeah.
What is your feeling about Whiskey Awards? I think that's a good, because you've shared some opinion with me while we've been building this thing, and it's been nice to get your take, because I don't think you were always a fan of Whiskey Awards, and I'm finding that a strong theme in the community, if I'm honest.
Right. I have had my reservations before I actually address the Whiskey Awards scene, the industry actually, the Whiskey Award industry, which is, I perceive to often be an extension of marketing, which is there in the interests of those who are financing, sponsoring, and hiring the attention. But I've got quite a long pedigree now. I mean, I kicked off in 2009. And at that point, Roy, I was using dial-up to load up my videos. And one video would take, at the lowest quality resolution, you know, going through the Telegraph polls, it would take about 12 hours to upload at that point. So I've got this long-term overview of the growing up of the whiskey scene online, the increasing fact that people are referring to this collective whiskey scene for guidance, for information, for reassurance, and also importantly, for just a friendly international community. And that's one of the fantastic things about it. You know, put the whiskey aside for a minute or two. Yeah. I find that certainly in my channel, and probably most folk in their channel, when you look at other genres on YouTube, they can be quite bitchy, malicious, contentious, shallow, dismissive, politicized. But in fact, the whiskey scene is remarkably mature, level-headed and sensible. Sure, we all get our trolls now and again, but it's very rare that we have to be proactive in removing people from the channel for inappropriate content. It's a rare occasion.
I think it's very much, I like to joke, I like to tongue-in-cheek say that whiskey demands it. You know, it's that whiskey theme thing. It's the people that we enjoy around whiskey, seeing each other as people. Whiskey allows us that connectedness to see each other as people. We don't care about how we vote, how we pray, how we eat, where we're from, all of these things. I think that culture is grown out of the channels on YouTube, the people who share, often free of charge, blog posts, social media accounts, however it is that they are motivated to share whiskey. It's the culture that they step forward with that breeds the positive culture in the community, that welcoming nature, that collaborative idea, the idea that whiskey is a way to connect people. And I think that bleeds through the culture online. And we have to work very hard. I know it's close to your heart as well. We all have to work very, very hard to preserve that. It's a privilege to be part of it. And I echo your sentiments completely. I've seen nothing like it anywhere else online. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So it's interesting then that we can come together and leverage that connectedness and that sense of community and that sense of kind of trying to, pursue common goals together to come up with a concept.
Because what we have is a collective now. There is a conscious whiskey collective of a remarkable, and we'll come to this later on in the OSWA nominations. There's actually a lot of people tuning in online to the whiskey scene, the international quality spirits scene, of which the Scotch whisky in particular. But we love our alternative moments. That's the thing. Typical Scottish, we're not clannish, if you know what I mean.
Not anymore.
But you know what I mean. We're very egalitarian. We're outward looking, and we go around the world exploring other flavors, other cultures, and the flavors that come through from other environments. And it's fascinating, and it's just the beginning of it. There is so much more to be realized. It's very exciting times. And looking at whiskey awards, there's a lot of whiskey awards out there, and good luck to them. They do what they do, but there isn't a whiskey award until now, until the online Scotch Whisky Awards, which uses the internet's algorithms template to actually feed as directly as possible from the online community back directly to the producers and suppliers of whiskey. And that is the primary aim of the OSWAs. It is as direct and as transparent a connection as possible. We don't ask for samples. We don't want them. We don't send out an invoice because we're not looking for invoices to be paid. What we are looking for is for the global whiskey industry to sit up and take the onliners and the people that care about good quality spirits more seriously than they did yesterday. Am I right?
You absolutely are right. This is a serious initiative. We're hoping to have fun with it. We're hoping to be as inclusive as possible. All the points that you make, but we have worked really, really hard to make it as serious a project as we can. Glenn Anderson has bought us a wee dram. He's got a Taninic, parcel number 5, 11-year-old. He's saying it's good. Thank you very much, Glenn. Also, another channel who has reached out in a vote of support, Jeff Whiskey. So I can say it was a part of this positive step for the whiskey world, and whiskytube slap on you too. That's fantastic, Jeff. Listen, you've already stepped forward with your support. We're going to find a way to include anybody that's stepping up to support the initiative in the future. It's not going to be something that we make exclusive. We can't talk about inclusivity and integrity and all of these things unless we lead by example. Jeff, thank you very much. And Mark as well, saying, I'm very grateful to the WhiskyTube community and I'm excited for these awards. Cheers, Roy and Ralfy. Cheers to you too, Mark. I'm very glad to have you here. Ralfy, I think what I'll do then, in order to clip on a little bit, is just give a brief overview of how we've put this together and how it's worked. So for anybody, all 630 plus of you that's tuning in now, here's how the Online Scotch Whisky Awards have been put together. And it's the idea is to make it as fair and as open and as clean and as democratic as we possibly can. John McAllister's Bottle We Dram. Hi, long-term barfly on the replay. John, it's wonderful to always to welcome you in here. Tuning in live for the first time tonight. Superb, my friend. Thank you very, very much. These have been put together by us reaching out to a couple of trusted channels just to float the idea. What do you think of this? Yes, we're in. Fantastic idea. Then that rippled out to another few trusted channels that we were all comfortable with. They'd been stood up there, consistently putting out great content on YouTube for a long time and had built up significant standing. We felt they knew their way about whiskey and they were experienced and they were able to contribute positively. So now we're up at 6 or 8 channels, and then it extends to 10 and 12. And it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And we're building this thing all the way along. Everybody is super involved, engaged, responsive and enthusiastic. Eventually, Ralfy and I decide to cut it at 24 channels because it's becoming administratively restrictive. And if you ask 24 channels to give their nominations for 8 categories, you're going to get 24 answers for each of the 8 categories, more or less. None of the channels had or were forced to put through a vote. Just the fact that they were on board was enough. And if they didn't feel like they had the experience to put forward a nomination in any particular category, they could simply skip it. Only put forward what they feel confident they could recommend as meeting the remit of quality, value, and availability. That was the remit. What is the best you've discovered in the last year that meets that criteria? Everybody puts forward their votes. And Ralfy and I look at these long lists of nominations. Fantastic breadth, fantastic depth of experience, fantastic suggestions. But 24 is too much for 8 categories. 24 times 8, that's 192, is it? 192 possible suggestions. So Ralfy and I put it all together and we send it back out to everyone and we ask them to vote, but they're not allowed to vote for their own nomination. So that method of refinement means that the good stuff floats to the top by consensus. Everybody has then agreed, and through no intervention from anyone, Ralfy and I had to do one piece of intervention because there was a 3-way tie for 6th place on one category. And Ralfy and I knew each of the 3 whiskies. We knew them. And both of us reached consensus immediately, and it was easy because the other 2 were not very available. And one of them we loved, and it was easy to put it forward because we knew as a nomination it would be available for folk. That's the only intervention that Ralfy and I have had to do in the whole process so far. What we share with you tonight is not Ralfy's choice. It is not Roy's choice. It is the choice of 24 collaborating channels with huge amounts of experience in buying and tasting whiskey. There are a couple of questions tonight. I'm sure that they're flying in here in the chat that we're going to address. People asking about prices, people asking about sponsorships and paid content. I hope as you see the way we've structured this, we're going to be able to alleviate a lot of those fears and concerns. I don't want to miss these chats that are coming in. My friend Warner from the States watching on an airplane, hoping for a strong signal while enjoying the only option on board. Dewar's on the rocks. Cheers, gentlemen. That Dewar's on the rocks is going to taste every bit as sweet as any whiskey you've ever had, Warner. I hope you enjoy it, my friend. It's really good to have you in here tonight. It's crazy to think that you're up there in the sky. Hoyt is saying, sharing a jam with a marvellous multi-master. Thank you so much, Hoyt. Ralfy will be glad to see you in too. So that's how it's been structured so far, and here's how it's going to be structured going forward. At this point, we're done. We hand it over to you. All that we ask is that you vote on this in the spirit of integrity, that you are versed in the Scotch community. You know your way about enough whiskies now that you look at those nominations and you click on your favourite because it's one that you would recommend that represents quality, that represents value, and it represents something that's available to everyone in the community. That's what deserves a vote. However, we are not going to force our nominations down your throat. There is, under each category, you will find a field that you can write in anything you like called People's Choice. Please, even if you have voted for something already and it's done, please repeat that vote in the People's Choice section underneath, because that is going to be the best method for us to get feedback from the community as to what you are enjoying. So if you look at those nominations and say, well, these are fantastic nominations, but this is missing and that's missing, put it in the People's Choice underneath, put in your favourite for each category. You can skip ones that you don't have, but even if you're repeating what you're voted for, fill in that People's Choice. It's going to be a very valuable narrative to weave into the discussion, and Ralfy and I can share it in the ceremony on the 6th of November. We can feed back to the community what the YouTubers and what the community have picked as a collaborative format, but also what the community are enjoying themselves. That's how this is going to work. It's going to run for 4 weeks. It will go live tonight. After this vPub is done and we've announced the nominations, it will be live. All you need to vote is a YouTube account, sorry, a Google account, very much the one that you would use to comment inside YouTube. It's anonymous. We don't see that at all. If you want to share your email with us, with the OSWA team, you can for newsletters and things, but we will never, ever share your details. We will never sell it. We will never spam you. We will rarely pester you at all, because everything will be shared through the website. When you sign in with your Google account, that is anonymous. You're sharing that with Google, not with us. That is the layer of protection that we've got in place. Chris, let's raise a wee glass for Chris, because he's celebrating his birthday by tuning in to us tonight. I've got a wee drip left of my whiskey here, Chris. Many happy returns to you, my friend. I'm very glad to welcome you in here on your birthday.
Part of we've given a lot of thought into this, Roy, and the fact that everything's going through an official website, oswa.co.uk. That is our hub for the whole awards. Everything is very self-explanatory. As you've mentioned, there is these levels of security so that it's not going to be hacked. We also get an overview, you and I, so that if anybody tries any shenanigans to rig the votes, we're going to spot it, because the Google account formula, using a Google account, gives us the opportunity to get that overview, which you wouldn't get from other accounts.
That's right. And I think that if you're going to, we hope that that level of protection that Google affords us is going to be sufficient. But I don't think you or I have any long-term concerns of security or hacking, because we hope that the scale of this thing, leveraging our community, means that if somebody goes in and tries to set up multiple accounts to get multiple votes in, you know, it's a wee bit futile. It's folly. So we hope that that's not going to be a concern. Best intentions. Pete is saying, important work. We must record our drams for future generation. That's a nice sentiment, Pete. I agree with that completely. Fantastic. And superb. Superb. Oh, sorry, I've made a wee mistake. Chris is saying, no, the ceremony is his birthday. It's not tonight. Well, we'll forget to say many happy returns, Chris, on the ceremony. So please take it now and keep it for the 6th of November. So all of this is going to go live tonight, and it'll be available for everybody to vote on in the next 4 weeks. There's a couple of reasons for that. We need to give everybody time to make sure that they're not rushing into a decision. There may be some whiskies that's nominated that you want to try before you vote and these kind of things. We understand what these nominations mean tonight. So you've got time to be able to think about this and put it in and consider it. However, if you bookmark that page, you will be able to go back and edit your response anytime during the 4-week period. So you don't need to commit and stick. You can go back in if you change your mind. One of the greatest things about whiskey is its ability to change your minds, and that's built in as well. You will be able to go back and edit your entry. From bottom of my heart, thank you guys. And I am not speaking only for myself. I think everybody here will agree. We appreciate your knowledge. Thank you for what you guys are doing. Thanks to you too, Mamuka. Thank you for your drama and thank you for your sentiment. But honestly, one of the biggest inspirations that Ralfy and I have had is that bi-directional peer-to-peer dynamic that works in YouTube, it works in the online digital communities. We are not dictating, we are not I don't know if any of the channels that are collaborating has stood up and said ever that they are experts. We are enthusiasts like you, and we don't share in a dictatorial way. We don't share in an autocratic way. We share in an enthusiastic, impassioned way based on our own experiences. And we also get to feed off your knowledge and your experience too. I think we all feel that in this community. And Chris Witham is saying on behalf of the nascent Cambridgeshire Whisky Club, fantastic. Chris, put out a shout out on the vPub. Put out a shout out in the vPub saying anybody in Cambridge, and they're now forming a club. So if anybody wants to reach out to Chris Witham or wants to reach out through me, absolutely, I'll be happy to do that. And that's wherever you are. You don't need to be in Cambridge. Anywhere where you want to get together with like-minded folk, I will always try to support that. Alex, you saying, evening, Roy and Ralfy, love this idea. And thanks for you both, your channels, which I've really enjoyed these last few years. Alex, thank you so much for your dram, and thank you for the positive words as well. Mac Bishop was saying, Roy, approximately how many votes are you expecting? That's too hard to answer. Votes, I don't know how many to expect. Let's just say I'm going to be surprised if it doesn't go into the thousands. Eric Waite Whiskey Studies, a collaborating channel. Fantastic to see you, Eric. Tongue in cheek, he's chiming in and saying, no, I am an expert. I used to be a perp, but not anymore. He's always got a wee tongue-in-cheek joke and one-liner to share with us. Eric, it's good to welcome you in here, my friend. Thanks for your support of this project. I've noticed quite a few other channels in tonight, some of them channels in support, some of them channels that are collaborating, and it's just great to have you all hanging out here with us to share this evening. I'm going to read out a couple of bones of contention, maybe a comment or two of support, but it's going to give us a chance to tackle one or two of these potential pitfalls that we've thought about well in advance, but the community have the same concerns. Firstly, I'll read out a comment of support that I thought was quite poignant from Blair Conrad. We know him as Jimmy Legg, and he's talking about subjectivity versus objectivity here, and he's saying, the smell and taste of whiskey is a very personal thing, but the proper production and presentation of whiskey is not. I'm very interested in distillery categories and what the results will be. Cheers to everyone involved in making this possible. Your efforts are appreciated. Thank you, Jimmy. And I think that's a perfect summary of what we're trying to do here. We're not trying to tell people what whiskey they should be drinking, but we are trying to guide people on the benefits of enjoying whiskey that's presented with quality in mind. Drew Lane, as well, as saying, looking forward to the unveiling, Roy. My first impression was that several of the channels perhaps could be accepting free bottles for review from wherever they came, unlike yourself. After the concept sunk in a bit more, I realized that you would be sorting any of that bias out if there was any to be found. Thanks for undertaking this endeavor and psyched to see the outcome. Ralfy, you and I are in a fortunate position with deep whiskey collections and a good supporting community that we are quite honestly in the luxury of not needing to accept free things and samples from anyone. Okay? Yeah. It's purely a sample exchange if we do that. Mm-hmm. We never take anything from the industry. We simply don't need it. We've got more whiskey than we know what to do with.
But if that's not just everyone. If I could just jump in here, Roy. Yes. We both have Patreon channels which support us financially. In fact, it is your Patreon supporters and mine who are financing the OSWAs. And we're very indebted and grateful to the support we receive. And we give our Patreon subscribers the additional content and material in acknowledgement of their support. And some of my Patreon supporters are actually industry professionals, so it's not so clear cut. There are channels who we are fully aware, we know that they will accept bottles of whiskey from marketing teams, and perhaps other gifts, or another option is invitations to launches and all the rest of it. But I don't think it's for you and I to judge that. I think it's for the viewer to decide which channel they want to go and view. And if they're not happy with that, they're not going to watch. And if they're quite comfortable with that, they are going to watch. It's the final decision, the final endorsement comes down to the audience. And one reason we've got so many partner channels here, particularly this is the first year, so we could have more next year, is that we want to cover all the bases. Some channels do accept free stuff from the whiskey. Other channels most certainly don't. This is the sheer variety and egalitarian scope of the way channels do different things. We've had a good long conversation about it, Roy, and we don't perceive this to be a major issue, although we're going to keep a close eye on it in future, as and when the OSWAs become established and get a lot more noticed and attention from the collective whisky industry.
Yeah, and I think that you and I have agreed from the outset that this would be something we would have to get over, and we didn't want you to use this as a soapbox to force everyone a model to fund a channel, because they can do it any way they like. So we lead with trust. We tell them the spirit of these awards, and some of them have submitted their nominations with statements to say, guys, we love what you're doing. So grateful to be a part of this. I hereby guarantee you that every single thing I've nominated, I have bought and will continue to buy with my own money.
Yeah.
And the spirit of this thing is not lost on any of them. We lead with trust.
And what we're noticing is that trust that we've put out there is being acknowledged and reciprocated. The submissions for the shortlist for the nominations this evening, you and I have gone over it with a magnifying glass. I've had the steampunker out. You know, we're taking this pretty seriously because this is the first run and we need to get this right. Because a lot of people already have high expectations. So we're going to make it happen.
I admitted to Ralfy that before I went live tonight, I had butterflies for the first time in a long, long time. The weight of this is not lost on me. Allard van der Nap has bought us a wee dram saying, thanks, guys. You're driving the bus in my malt journey. Allard, thank you so much, my friend. Wonderful words. Thank you so much. Crump the Casco, what a name. Love you guys. Ralfy is my hero. Hashtag Ralfy Army. Superb. It's fantastic.
What?
Nice to welcome you in here. Thank you. Yes. Whiskey Throttle is saying, love you both. That's Daniel in Canada, you star. Hopefully Ralfy will take me for a motorcycle tour when I get back to Scotland and or Isle of Man. I'll keep a special bottle under the motorcycle seat. Daniel, I look forward to you gracing our shores again once more. And Pete Welsh is saying, is joined the Aquavite Barflies. Thank you so much, Pete. Thank you for your support. And Leanne, you star. She's saying it's clear the intent of these awards is to the benefit of the consumer and not the glory or the brand of yourselves. Slanchi, y'all, this is a channel that she's stepping forward to support. Leanne, if you could be part of this in the future as well, that would be even better. Thank you very, very much for your kind words and support. Okay, I've got a bone of contention here to read out. Let's read out a wee comment first, though, from Glenn Vore, who says, all awards so far have been biased, fee-orientated, industry-friendly, and exercises in marketing. So quite a cynical comment here. But he is saying, let's hope for a new vision. Whatever we achieve, it will be with the best intention, with all of that, everything that we're talking about tonight. It's exactly that vision, Glenvore. I think that's Glenvore is Jason. It's exactly that vision, and we'll try our very, very best to deliver that. Yeah. And I picked up this comment. Sorry, go ahead, Ralfy.
We're also very aware that we are being scrutinised here as part of the transparency of this award systems going through the official channel that you and I have created. We're aware of what we need to do to get this right. And I can understand to a certain extent the cynical comment. But at the end of the day, whiskey is a business. And there's always a business mindset and mentality towards it. And the industry knows damn well from experience that awards grabs attention. They are effective marketing, and that is why they invest in them. And we understand that, but we're using that formula, but coming from a different direction. And it's those who vote, and I encourage everybody to get your Google account in place, to get onto oswa.co.uk and have your say. Place
Not
your
yet.
vote.
No, it's not live yet. It will be live this evening.
It's not live yet, but when it does go live, be ready.
It will be live, and I will announce this evening when it's live and available for everybody to vote. But remember, there is no rush. It stays live for 4 weeks. Whiskey 101, Nick, you star. It's going to be a tough 4 weeks while I try every contender. Just to be fair and unbiased, you understand. Thanks to all the channels. Thank you very much, Nick, and thanks for your vote of support. Dribs and Drams is saying, another channel out there on YouTube. Dribs and Drams, a brand new channel over in Canada. And he's saying, I'm still so micro that I wouldn't have a choice but to accept gifts up to a certain threshold. Keeping my channel up is killing my wallet right now. That's exactly what we're talking about. This is not a judgment on any model. However you finance what you're doing, I wish you the very best and strong wind in your sails, my friend. This is about when we have discovered quality that we will go out and spend our own money on and be grateful to have it on the shelf. That's the whiskey that we want to celebrate. Superb. Jimmy Legacy, sorry, hold that man back. He's talking about Ralfy. I think Jed Smith is saying vPub through that magical 700. Wow. A lot of pressure on Ralfy, a lot of eyes on us tonight. Listen, let's tackle one of the cynical comments. And I get this comment completely. It did speak to me a wee bit. And it's from your channel. I hope the gentleman doesn't mind me reading out his comment. His name is Fetz Key. And he commented on your OSWA video. He said, I've got nothing against the initiative itself, whatever floats your barrel. But I know one thing in advance. He's saying, the big ones get bigger and the ones in the shadow will stay in the darkness. That's how shortlists work. Can I take this one, Ralfy? Can I answer this?
Go with it. Run with it.
Fetz, thank you very, very much, because that type of sentiment is exactly what I feel strongly about. And it's not just in whiskey, but in the context of this evening, let's keep it inside whiskey. If we celebrate something, it's nothing to do with how big they are. It's to do with the quality that they've brought along. And if we celebrate them to the point that they go on and succeed and they leave behind them a wake, a model that other people can follow, that's what we want to reward. We know that sometimes we talk ourselves out of whiskey experiences because we can't buy the stuff anymore because it's too good. Because it's been out there at high quality, good value. We rave about it and suddenly we can't buy it anymore. It's a nature of the beast, but we need to be able to do that because through that model of success, no one is left in the shadows. They have a choice. Follow that successful model or keep putting out watered down, less engaging, low margin, not so premium, not so high quality products that the enthusiasts don't rave about. That's what we're trying to achieve, Fetz. It remains to be seen if we can achieve or have any impact on that at all. But thanks for your comment. Thanks for your concern. And thanks for taking the time to comment on Ralfy's channel. I hope you don't mind me reading that out. Yeah. What's your take on that same thing?
Yeah, a perfectly legitimate comment. And, you know, it's good to give it a proper airing here. We're not just saying, right, we'll just kind of just tuck that under the carpet and, you know, all the rest of it. Let's get this out in the open and actually discuss it and let people who have maybe not thought about these situations be aware of it, because it's transparency, and transparency is something that the internet, if used appropriately, can be very good at delivering.
Jimmy Legg is threatening to vote Milton Duff for every category because he wants to bring it into the light. This is exactly what it's about, Jimmy. I hope that there's going to be other people out there that will back you up and agree that Milton Duff is worthy of celebrating and putting in the people's choice as well, and see how that gets along. Fantastic stuff, guys. Fantastic, everybody. Ralfy, let's just get the wheels on this. People are in. We're over 700 people tuning in. Let's just kind of roll through it. I'm going to roll through a couple of introductory points first, because I know everybody's thinking about it, and there's some good news to share throughout this as well.
Absolutely.
Welcome, everybody. We're going to just go through this, and in the next few minutes, Ralfy and I will start to share what the nominations are, because let's face it, that's why you're all here. Some of you might be surprised by the nominations this evening. For everyone that is surprised, there's going to be somebody that's not surprised. Why? Because you're already knowledgeable and you're experienced, and you've found, whether it's on yourself and shared it with the community of you, or you've learned it from the community, you've found where the quality is. Whiskey in the Six has bought us a dram to say, this is awesome. Rob, you're a star. Thank you, gents, for putting this together. So Rob, Whiskey in the Six in Canada, another collaborating channel, one of the founding members. Rob, it's wonderful to welcome you in here. Thanks for your support and positivity and your virtual dram, my friend. So welcome, everybody, to the Online Scotch Whisky Awards 2021. A brief bit of housekeeping first.
Whoa. That wasn't a Ralfy gremlin. No.
It was not.
You got rid of that quite quickly. Well done.
Well, I hope it was quickly enough.
I tell you what, there's already some folk back, they're recording it and they're going to get a wee flash image of it. So we better move on now.
There's lots of things to see before there. That was Ralfy and I doing the dry run before we went live that caused that.
Ladies and gentlemen, malt mates, that's not one of my bloopers.
Let's pull this back up. Okay, good. Welcome, everyone. Let's hope that nobody saw that too much. Everybody's having a wee laugh. Don't pause and rewind the Whiskey Novice, Jim. Please do not. First thing we want to talk about is the big elephant in the room, cynical pricing. There's been lots of concerns from the community about the pricing being hiked. Ralfy and I have a wee plan to try and help circumnavigate these problems. We know that it is a dynamic that exists in whiskey. These whiskies can be celebrated to the point that they disappear. We can't buy them anymore. But worse than that, while we can buy them, some cynical pricing is leveraged in order to overcharge or to make profit out of it. We hope that will not be how these awards are celebrated. We've got a 3-step plan for this. Ralfy, talk us through the points and I'll bring it up on screen.
Right. So now initially we started with a 1-step plan, which was to actually put an RRP in pounds sterling, which is a recommended retail price under each nomination in the category, so that people voting could see what you pay on average in the British Isles, in the UK, for these whiskies. But in fact, we don't think that's enough. So we've extended this from a 1-point plan to a 3-point plan. And it is as follows. 1, we will have a RRP, recommended retail price, an average one, solicited from a number of online retailers, or retailers with an online presence throughout the UK. And that will be clearly visible under each nomination as a point of reference for you, should you be wanting to buy any of the nominated spirits in these awards. But secondly,
a shout out to Phil over at Whiskey Mystery, one of the supporting channels, one of the founding channels here. It was his idea that we publish these prices, and I think it's a very good idea. We can't get access to RRP price lists. We don't often know what RRP is. So what we did is we went through the range of prices that's available in the UK. You have to use that as a rule of thumb. So if you want to just take a Lafroig 10, see how much it is in the UK versus how much you pay for it, for example, and that would give you a rule of thumb to compare where you are locally. It's the best that we can do to look at our pricing locally here and publish the average of what's available online. What I will say about that guide pricing is, probably you're going to find most of the places are probably £1 or £2 more expensive and some others are £1 or £2 less. If you're going to your local independent retailer, please be prepared to support those guys who don't have the buying power of the big online concerns.
Yeah.
And you might have to pay a few more pounds, but what you get back is value in return, because you get to build a relationship, you get guidance, you get a chat, you get good information from informed local retailers as well. So please don't use these guide prices as a club to beat anyone with. They are simply, as we say here, guide pricing for you, and I hope it'll help us guard against hiking. The second point, Ralfy, you came up with this.
Yeah, and the second point is that when we send out the award certificates, and we'll maybe later on in the vPub actually show the certificates we're sending. As an example, we're going to have a covering letter specifically requesting that the winners do not inflate their prices, and that they request distributors, and if they have the opportunity, to request retailers not to inflate their prices, for the simple reason that we will very, very quickly get feedback online when they do. And in fact, in the third point, in the third part of our plan, is that we will be soliciting feedback from the wider whisky community where they identify price hikes, so that there is visibility and an opportunity for a little bit of polite and civil public shaming.
Jimmy Legg is suggesting us telling them what to do, love it. And Roland Whiskey Radar was talking about he's enjoying the fact that we're keeping this, for the most part, positive, and that there's no kind of rotten barrel awards and things. Absolutely. This is celebrating the best in whiskey. This will not be used as an opportunity to name, shame, or unless somebody steps up, as Ralphie's just summarized, and kind of almost makes a fool of themselves by employing cynical, opportunistic policies. We hope that that's not going to be a part of it. Brian at Kilco is saying, I will have all the Scotch, please, thank you. Whiskey has changed my life for the better. This community is fantastic. Brian, my friend and fellow peer creator over there on YouTube, it's wonderful to have you as part of it, my friend. Thank you for your dram. Step 3, Ralfy, is what? We will work together, whether it's... Sorry, go ahead.
Well, the step 3, as I mentioned, is really making any price hiking, any what we could term generally as shenanigans from the buyer's perspective, visible and discussed. And there's many ways that this can be done. Whiskey fans, the whiskey buyers, can be within their own forums and Reddit, on Facebook. They can leave comments on my channel, on your channel. They can discuss really with the wider community. But this particular retailer, this is what they're charging now. Now, I must stress here that it is not the opportunity for baiting, badgering, and negativity. It has to be all addressed with civility and a bit of whiskey professionalism, so as to avoid any mudslinging. However, I think that when you actually look at the nominations here, it will become more apparent that it's not really in the interests of either producers, distributors, or retailers to particularly hike. And we're not taking maybe £1 or £2, dollars or euros here. We're talking if they suddenly jump up £20, €20, €20, $20. People should just vote with their wallets. Simple as that.
Superb. Absolutely superb. I've got something really important to share, Ralfy, and I know that you just got word of this before we went live tonight, but I really want to share it. Jacob Crater has bought me dram to say I knew nothing about whiskey before 2021, April 2021, and now I'm in love, not just with the dram, but with the incredible kind community. Cheers from Texas. Cheers, Jacob. I'm glad that you've discovered what we've been enjoying as well. It's amazing, and I hope you bring a lot of positivity to it too, my friend. Thank you for your ram. Cheers to you.
Yes.
I'm going to read this out. I think it's a wonderful thing, and I think it's
fantastic,
to be shared. Yeah. So I'll be honest. When I was setting everything up, the nominations, and I was building the website pages and things, I started to steal images. I was stealing assets online. And I went to Royal Mail Whiskies to start stealing images from Royal Mail Whiskies because they had a nice white background and I needed a white background. Didn't want to cut the images out in Photoshop and blah, blah, blah. I was using Royal Mail Whiskies. And then I realized if we don't lead with integrity when we are talking about integrity, we're making mistakes. So I reached out to Royal Mail Whiskies and I said, can I use your assets? I'm building a project here. And they came back and said, yes, of course you can. P.S. What's it for? So I told them what it was for, and I sent them to the OSWA website. I got this message today. Can I read this out, Ralfy? This is from Royal Mail Whiskies. Hi, Roy. Just a note to say I read your manifesto, and I really dig what you guys are doing. For years, we have ignored whiskey awards. But your target of available, high-quality whiskey for normal people is a really good idea. To my utter astonishment, I am fully behind a new whiskey award program. While we would not gouge anyway, they have an ethics policy that they have to stick to, and he talks about that. We commit, this is huge, we commit to keeping an eye on anything you guys choose and make sure that these prices are frozen for the rest of the year. We hope that that's helpful. You YouTube lot contribute a huge amount to the whiskey world, and I'm sure this will be a big new pin in the malt map. Good luck tonight. Arthur Motley, Royal Mail Whiskies. Now, people have met Arthur. He was on the vPub months ago to talk about his role as a whiskey buyer and how he's trying to combat things like secondary market issues and everything. For him to see the value in what we're doing and to step up and try and help alleviate some of the issues and concerns that people are seeing about price hiking, that is huge. And we hope, because you and I know the Good Spirits Company in Glasgow very well, Ralfy, we know that there's just not a chance they would do that. And the chances are that most of the retailers that we have come to enjoy would not do that. But there may be a worry out there in the community that distributors somewhere in the supply chain, the producers or the retailer, could use this as an excuse to hike prices. For a retailer to step up and say, no, this is integrity first. We support that. Thank you for doing this. We will freeze prices for as long as they've got stock for anything that meets the nominations.
It's a big deal. It's a very big deal.
I don't think you can ask for much more than that. I hope that other retailers see the positivity there and step up, because they would sell for the prices anyway. We're not asking them to drop prices, not asking them to discount things. Just keep the prices fixed.
Yeah.
And if you step up with a statement of support, the chances are that people will come to you. And while they buy their nominated product, they're going to look to see what other interesting things or exclusives you might have. And hopefully it's of mutual benefit for everyone to follow the lead of Royal Mail Whiskey. Arthur Motley, Royal Mail Whiskies, thank you so much for your vote of confidence. And thank you for me not having to steal images in order to put together this thing.
You were borrowing, but you're just going to tell them later.
That's right. I was borrowing. Never going to give it back, but yes. Okay, I'm going to spend a moment here to share some more thanks. I'm going to take you through the 24 founding channels that put this together. Let me say at the outset, there are a lot of channels out there that have stepped up to support, and there are a lot of the community that are stepping up to shout you out and tell you that they want you to be involved. I'm talking about Chris over at Liquor Hound. I'm talking about the Portuguese-speaking Brazilian channels. I'm speaking about G Whiskey. I'm speaking about the Malt Activist. I'm speaking about New Dram Drinker in the UK. I'm speaking about Single Malt Review. I think they're in New Zealand, Tim and Dave. I'm talking about Kanpai Planet in Japan, and more and more and more. Everybody is flocking to that page on the oswa.co.uk website and nominating you and wanting you to be involved. Please, we see you. Reach out to us and tell us that you want to support the concept, and we will find a way to make you part of this. It's for everyone.
Well said.
Fantastic. Let's share with you the founding 24 channels. I want to say a huge thanks to all of these people. Eric Waite on the west coast of the US. Managed to meet Eric, fantastic guy, huge educational content. Andy down at Maltbox in Manchester, very active, very, very passionate, a fantastic guy to watch on YouTube. He's been on the channel, he's been on the vPub as well. Narby and Mike over at Malt Reviews, superb high-end whiskies. If you're looking for vicarious experience with unicorns and wonderfully passionate geek-out sessions with their noses and some marvellous whiskies, Mike and Narby's where you go to. That's a Malt Review. No Nonsense Whiskey, Vin. He's been ploughing away for years now, one of the most consistent guys on YouTube, still putting out with a huge focus on budget, affordable whiskies, very in line with what we're talking about tonight. Scotch for Dummies. That's Andrew, Mark, Drew, and Sean over in Indianapolis in the US. Been putting out content there for 6 or 7 years now. Fantastic channel. 4 opinions on screen at one time. Great to have your support, guys. Jeremy, he's been in here tonight. He's in support tonight. That's Jeremy at Sipper Social Club. Also a co-host of the Whiskey Rant podcast. Fantastic to have your support, Jeremy. Fantastic palate. Wide, broad experience in whiskey. High-end and entry-level high-quality stuff too. Moa, Swedish whiskey girl. Moa had just picked up an Icons of Whiskey award as Communicator of the Year. This is Moa who's sharing her content on YouTube. Well done, Moa, and it's nice to have you as part of this project. Malted Man Cave Keith, super passionate guy, sits alongside his buddy in the Man Cave, Dave, and just gets their geek on and shares what's rocking their boat and whiskey. Lovely guy, glad to have him as part of this. Jason at the Mash and Drum as well, mostly focused on bourbon. If we ever need bourbon expertise and influence, because he's also got an eye on Scotch, Jason is one of the guys that I would be happy to reach out to. He's our kind of conduit over to a completely different scene and community out there in whiskey, the bourbon community as well. But inside the Scotch community, we are promiscuous, like I say, and we do like to explore our bourbons. Whiskey Whistle has bought me a dram, such a delight and a reinvigorating treat for me. Thanks so much, Ralfy and Roy. I'll get to you in a minute, my friend Mark Kaufman out in Canada. Scott and Bart at Scotch Test Dummies. Fantastic channel, great humour, great tongue-in-cheek stuff, wonderful channel. The reason I'm active on YouTube is partly because of those two guys. I'm privileged to call them friends, and we're privileged to have them as part of this program. The Whiskey Dictionary, Bill out in the US as well. Big channel, putting out lots of educational content out there. He's been around for a long time as well. It's great to have Bill's support. Whiskey Tribe, they don't need an introduction. Daniel and Rex over there in the States and Texas. Probably the biggest, in fact, the biggest 2 channels out there. Whiskey Tribe are supporting here. The biggest channel out there on YouTube is the Whiskey Vault. Combined, they've got something like well over 750,000 subscribers. They are massive, and to have these guys supporting this initiative is absolutely superb. Alan, the whiskey friend in the UK. This is an expat Scot living down south in England. Used to be a collector, and now he's been bitten by the bug, and he's sharing that from his shed down in England. Fantastic, Alan, to have you part of this scheme. Trenny and C in Canada as well have been around for a long time. Irreverent content, tongue-in-cheek content, funny as hell. Go and watch Trenny and C if you like to enjoy your whiskey and don't always have to take it super seriously. Brilliant to have you on board, guys. Shayla at Whiskey Central, only a year and a half into her journey on YouTube and already huge traction, huge growth, an absolute charm and a ray of sunshine to have in the YouTube community. I'm really glad to welcome Shayla on board as well. Whiskey in the Six, Rob, he'd been around for a long time, coming out from Canada as well. Fantastic guy, huge back catalogue of reviews, huge depth and experience in whiskey. Also joins as a co-host of the Whiskey Rant podcast with Jeremy, and it's an absolute pleasure to have Rob involved as well. Whiskey Jason, coming from Germany, putting out 2 channels. He puts out a German-speaking channel and an English-speaking channel, probably the most prolific contributor and creator in the whiskytube scene. Quite incredible. Phil and Deepa at Whiskey Mystery, a channel that's fabulous and charming and charismatic to watch, that's fully based on blind tasting, a topic that I'm obsessed with. Brilliant to have those guys as part of it. Whiskey Neighbour, Jonathan in Canada as well. That idea of looking at Scotch whisky, international whisky, Canadian whiskies. He's also got his own take on recycled reviews, and he's an absolute gentleman as well. Good to have you, Jonathan. Jim Ingram, relatively new channel in Northern Ireland. Fantastic, brings us some insight into the Irish scene as well, but he will admit his heart is in Scotch. Probably if you pushed him, he would tell you it's in Campbelltown. Fantastic to have the Whiskey Novice on board as well. Whiskey Wednesday, Phil. Phil has been going at Whiskey Wednesday for years now, and even before it was Phil, it was owned by another guy who passed it on to Phil, and Phil has kept the torch burning for years now. I trust Phil's palate as much as anybody in the whiskey industry. If he says something is good, I pay attention, and I'm glad to have him here. Mark, you just bought us a dram. Thank you very much, Mark. Whiskey Whistle. He's been going for years now as well, bringing content from Canada, whiskey promiscuous, Asian whiskies, Scotch whiskies, world whiskies, bourbons, Canadian. He's into everything, and he's got a fantastic palate, and his knowledge is hugely deep as well. Lastly, my friend and sidekick Ralfy and myself, we round out the 24 channels. Let me just say, when I talk about these channels, they're just the founding 24 that stood up for this thing. Ralfy and I will find a way to open this up and keep it as democratic and as inclusive as possible. They did not need to nominate for every category. As I explained earlier, they could skip any category they didn't feel they had enough depth or understanding of knowledge, and that honesty and integrity is very much part of what we're building here, that honesty. As I say, there are plans to expand the channels, and one fantastic way of doing that, it's very difficult to ask for nominations from 50, 60 channels. It's very difficult to refine that. But what we could do is keep a core group of founding channels, and then when they have put forward their nominations, we use the supporting channels as support to help refine it and get a much, much better consensus on what makes it out for a consensus. Thanks to everybody, but this is the bomb I need to drop here. Look at this stat. The combined reach of those 24 WhiskyTube channels that I've just listed to you is 1.5 million subscribers. And there are hundreds of channels in WhiskyTube. The community, before you tell me that yeah, that's lots of overlap. Some people subscribe to you, Roy, and they subscribe to Ralfy too, so that's not, sorry, it's about minutes watched. You can't watch 2 and 3 things at the same time. You watch the content. There are 1.5 million of you, and I know that subscribers isn't the metric that you should measure a channel against, but my goodness, if you're looking for a scale or a measure on the community that we're speaking to here, 1.5 million subscribers. Quite incredible. And that is without factoring in their Patreon accounts, their social media Facebook groups, their Instagram feeds, whatever other socials that they have, their web pages and websites, and all the hundreds of other YouTube channels that are not yet part of this. Quite staggering, Ralfy, don't you think? I know you've got some words for the channels too.
Yeah, that's the 1.5 million subscribers is a lot of whiskey sales. It's a high value because people will not subscribe to a whiskey channel as passive consumers and occasional buyers at New Year or for birthdays because they're not that interested. People who subscribe to the assortment and variety of whiskey channels available to them online are people who genuinely want to know more about good quality spirits. And they're gravitating online because they feel that in the time they have available, they're learning an awful lot and they're being entertained while they're at it. And this is the importance of what we do. And you and I know full well, because we're kind of slightly veteran, you know, in now for the internet, certainly, that it's just, it keeps us going. It keeps us enthused, knowing the positivity and the substance and the quality and the intelligence of people's desire to know more, be more aware, and to develop the confidence in their own palate and just find out where the best stuff can be bought at the best price to give them the bang for the buck, euro or pound, and so it goes on.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think that we've all kind of benefited from those willing to take that passion, to take that thirst for knowledge, and also that desire to share the knowledge by standing in front of a camera, however they do it on YouTube. It does take It does
Yeah.
take a lot of
And not only
confidence,
that,
right?
Roy, not only that, it's the sheer globalization of it. Because I distinctly remember when I started, had the big audience in the US, big audience in Germany, big audience in Britain and England. And I've watched it over the last 12 years just expand to Mexico, to Bolivia, to Uzbekistan,
Yes.
and right into the Far East. And the number of people now coming from Hong Kong and even China, I'm spotting that. And it's significant. Our channels are not shrinking. Let me just to say to anybody out there who has a whiskey channel, you can expect your channel to expand because the internet is drawing more and more and more of an audience, because it's far more relevant to them than frankly, the mediocrity of traditional media. Was that controversial?
No, I don't think it is controversial. And I think that what people have missed is that we were a cutesy distraction, these hobbyists and enthusiasts from their sheds, from their bothies, from their spare rooms in their house or whatever, talking about whiskey. And they worked out quite quickly that we were not experts. What they didn't work out, that was the selling point. That was the USP, that we were not experts.
Absolutely.
We were there to share passion and experiences. And it was going to always be a bi-directional thing where we could feed off the community as much as we could speak to the community. That's what's changed it. That peer-to-peer as opposed to master-slave, that thing.
Yeah. We're sharing the journey.
Right, let's put our armor jackets on, Ralfy.
Yeah, here we go.
Here we go.
I'm ready.
The nominations for the 2021 inaugural Online Scotch Whisky Awards.
Rightio.
The first category, Ralfy, is best. I'll take them through the category, shall I? Best entry-level Scotch whisky. Just to be clear, entry-level Scotch whiskies are gateway whiskies. These are things that are affordable and available everywhere. Things that encourage us to take further steps. These are good whiskies that we can buy for £35, $35, €35, somewhere in that order. And that we would not only recommend to somebody coming into whiskey, but probably something that we would buy and be quite happy to have permanently on our shelf. This is to reward the best quality, value, and availability in entry-level Scotch whisky. When you're ready, my friend.
Right. The nominations are as follows. Ardbeg 10-year-old at 46% ABV. Arran 10-year-old at 46% ABV. Bunnahabhain 12-year-old at 46.3% ABV. Deanston 12-year-old at 46.3 ABV. Glencadam 10-year-old at 46% ABV. Highland Park 12-year-old at 40% ABV. Over to you, Roy.
Fantastic. Listen, if anybody's wondering about the order here, in case you haven't worked out, there is no order to it other than alphabetical order. If you look at these, Ralfy, I think what's remarkable is that if we talk about gateway whiskies, they are all in there. The Ardbeg is north of the 35 target, but we can buy it cheaper than 45. It's regularly on offer. And let's be honest, as a 10-year-old naturally presented Islay single malt, it's dear to all our hearts. But 5 out of 6 of the nominations are naturally presented whiskey. They're unchill filtered, higher ABV. Okay, 1 or 2 of them were not sure. There's no statement about colouring on there. But look at these. The Glencadam fully natural, the Arran fully natural, Ardbeg fully natural, Bunnahabhain and Deanston mostly natural, we believe. I believe it more often than not they are. The Highland Park is one of these standard stalwart whiskies that everybody starts their journey out on. And we can see for this to go through the nominations and voting process for 24 collaborating channels, and that to make it through the Highland Park, even if that's a domestic ABV, on export it's 43% ABV, even at lower ABV, it's still close to many's hearts. I think
something else worth pointing out is the category is for Scotch whisky, entry-level Scotch whisky, and yet they're all single malts. Where's the blends? And I've got an answer to this, Roy, and that is because the price of blends has crept up to such an extent recently that anybody experienced with whisky is saying, you know, for what you get in a blend, with the delivery of the blend, for all the additional cost, I'm just going for single malts because that's where my palate is. And as you rightly highlight, 5 out of the 6 nominations are what we would call integrity bottlings, and some would call craft presentation. And I find that very interesting.
I do too. And what's good about it is that the reason that we are talking about these things, the reason that we are celebrating them, is that presentation. Make no mistake, this is not price point. This is not anything else. There are some producers out there that are taking steps backwards. They're exploring lower ABVs, diluting their brand, silly missteps that we believe are silly missteps. This category doesn't reflect that. Whiskey Wednesday's bought us a dram saying this is going to be amazing fun. Phil, great to have you in. And he's saying can't wait to see the winners. Phil, thanks for your dram, superb. So this is, the winners will be coming out on the 6th of November, of course, with Ralfy and I on the winning ceremony. This is the nominations for best entry level. Judge Holden has bought a dram to say the best bottles I've ever bought would still be on the shelf collecting dust without Ralfy's insight. Cheers to OSWA. Thank you very, very much, Judge. It's good to have you here, my friend, and thank you for your support, positive words, and your virtual dram. Good start, Ralfy. I have to say, a good start. Entry-level Scotch whiskies, all of these I would be happy to have on the shelf. It's taken care of itself, no intervention from us, but there is a theme here. There are things in here that you'll hear Ralfy and Roy both celebrating. Fantastic. The second category, Ralfy's already touched upon it, but here's a category exclusively here to celebrate a blend. And the idea of a blend, of course, the only definition here is something that's mixed. It doesn't need to be just blended Scotch. It could be blended malt. It could be blended grain, anything that's a blended Scotch whisky. And the idea there, I know it's a trope. I know that everybody marches it out, something that somebody with expert insight has been able to put together something that's greater than the sum of its parts. That is what a blend should bring. It shouldn't be something that's put out there as a price point whiskey, put in the bottom shelf. Theoretically, a blend can be better than single malts because of its ability to create anything we desire. This is where we celebrate the best blends as voted for by 24 YouTube creator channels. Take it away, Ralfy.
Thank you, Roy. And the nominations are as follows. Compass Box Flaming Heart Blended Malt at 48.9% ABV. Compass Box Spice Tree Blended Malt at 46% ABV. Compass Box The Peat Monster Blended Malt at 46% ABV. Cutty Sark Prohibition Blended Scotch at 50% ABV. Douglas Lang Scallywag Blended Malt at 46% ABV. Johnny Walker Green Label Blended Malt 15-year-old at 40% ABV.
Wow. Gregor Dykman's mentioned that the Chivas 18 is a fantastic blend and he was maybe expecting to see it in the lineup here. And I think with the exception of one, maybe the reason that it's not made it in here is look at the ABV theme here. We've got half of these are Compass Box. We'll get to that in a minute. Mm-hmm. But with the exception of Johnny Walker Green Label, which is the darling of so many from the Johnny Walker lineup, right? That blended malt take from the Johnny Walker, which is normally blended whiskey, blended Scotch whiskey with grain in there. This is a blended malt. And indeed, 5 of the 6 in this category have ended up being blended malt, a huge bias towards malt whiskey. We understand why. Look at the only blend that made it through, a blend that is pointed at the enthusiast, a prohibition style, a different take on blends, 50% ABV, £24, and one that's talked about fondly by a lot of people. We've got Douglas Lane, a remarkable project there from Douglas Lane with a remarkable regional malt series. I think that Scallywag deserves to be talked about at Natural Presentation as well. And 3 Compass Box. Listen, I'm surprised by this. I think you're surprised by it, Ralfy.
Yeah.
But then we sit back and we talk about it and we say, wait a minute, have we ever enjoyed or have we ever had a bad Compass Box?
No. I remember many years ago, actually, it's about 10 years ago now, I interviewed John Glaser briefly in Canada at one of the whiskey festivals. And I really got an impression that he was ahead of his time. He was future-proofing his business by not just the presentation, which is genuinely engaging and it's theatrical and tastefully so, but
beautiful.
He was specifically investing in good quality casks to create good quality malt blends, which were being systematically engineered for the modern palate and with reference to other successful whiskies. And I think that what we're seeing with 3 nominations, which is a lot within the category here, is you're really seeing the legacy of that investment.
I think Compass Box, we can put squarely the accolades on their shoulders for defining what blended malt whiskey can be, for bringing whiskies in a category that was previously misunderstood, ignored, for reinvigorating it and bringing some fantastic experiences. Now, while the Peat Monster and the Spice Tree are good value at sub £50, look at the swing in price range here. We've got Cutty-Sark Prohibition at 24, but you would need to add £101 to that in order to grab yourself a Flaming Heart. What I'll say about that premium product there and Compass Box generally, if you want to know what's gone into it, have a look on the website. And if you want to dig deeper, send an email directly to Compass Box and they will tell you in direct response to your inquiry. And you will discover there's a reason for that price because of the caliber of stocks that's gone into making that premium blend. So we have not forced pricing for any of these nominations. We can see that it's huge. We've got £24, £39 for the Scallywag, £42 for the Johnny Walker, Compass Box Peat Monster at 46, Spice Tree at 48, all the way up to 125 for the Flaming Heart. Anybody who's looking to get their hands on something that's been put together as a craft or let's say as a blended product in order to try and create something that's greater than the sum of its parts, all of these, I think, are worthy of your exploration.
Yeah.
Good. Blended Scotch whisky. Let's move on to the third category, Ralfy.
Yes, indeedy.
Can I start this by saying, yes, this best grain category is a bit of a catch-all, and this is a product of Ralfy and I trying hard to simplify this as much as possible, and it got to the point that we had to step up and admit that this is the online Scotch Whisky Awards. This is about the Scotch-loving community. So for us to step up and have a category for rye and Irish and Japanese and bourbon and all the other wonderful categories out there to explore was disingenuous. But we didn't want to restrict it just to Scotch malt. So what we did is we put in a category to say, look, let's celebrate that there are things other than malted barley to make whiskey out of. Let's give it its own category. And as long as it's not malt, anything is worthy. Let's see what the Scotch community is drinking that is not malt whiskey. That's what this category is about. In the future, we may find reason or justification to make this a bit more granular, a bit more defined and split it. Yeah. But for now, anything goes here as long as it's not malt whiskey. I hope that makes sense to everyone. Yeah. Ralfy, when you're ready, share it with us, please.
Just before I go, if I could comment that essentially this is the category for malternatives.
Yes, yes.
That's a good way of looking at it. But here we go. The nominations are as follows. Bain's Cape Mountain Grain Whisky, 40% ABV. Balcones True Blue Texas Corn Whisky, 50% ABV. Compass Box Hedonism Blended Grain, 46% ABV. Teeling Single Grain Irish Whisky, 46% ABV. Wild Turkey 101 Kentucky Straight Bourbon, 50.5% ABV. Wild Turkey Rare Breed Kentucky Straight Bourbon, 58.4% ABV. Over to you, Roy.
Fantastic, fantastic. A lot of people jumping in to talk about Johnnie Walker Green Label being a blended malt. I thought I did say that. Clearly, I was differentiating between blended malt and blended Scotch. It's the blended malt in the lineup. And people that are talking about 43% versus 40, yes, we suffer that on Highland Park. We suffer it on Lafroig 10. Lots and lots of whiskies are domestically presented to us at 40% ABV. But as I said as a caveat at the start of this thing, you might enjoy export strength at 43% ABV. And if you are, good on you. We often don't get it here. On this grain whiskey category, though, Ralfy, the thing that strikes me is two things. The breadth of this. We've got a South African grain whiskey. We've got a Texas corn whiskey. We've got a blended grain. We've got a single grain from Ireland. And we've got two bourbons. And this is the second point. This is nothing to do with Ralfy or Roy. This is a consensus from 24 channels. The two bourbons that made it through are from the same camp. Quite incredible.
Mm-hmm. I think it reflects, Roy, the truly international nature of the online community. And I think it actually reflects very well on, you have an array of whiskies, each and every single one of them. If a Scotch whisky drinker was to buy a bottle, they are not going to be disappointed. They're going to discover complex, different flavors that you do not get in Scotch whisky. And I'm delighted to see that Wild Turkey is in there. It's represented twice, but it's a testament to the competency of the Wild Turkey brand and the fact that it's available, accessible, and good value in not just in the USA, but around many other countries in the world.
And I think that that's exactly what we see, that a lot of the bourbons that's well priced in the US, and I know it's getting harder to track down lots of bourbon brands, but by the time it makes it over here, it can be hugely restrictive on price. We do see that, but clearly here we've got the 101 at 33. It will be cheaper in the States, I know. And the rare breed fantastic bourbon at £55. These are reasonable prices compared to a lot of bourbons that we see. Eric Waite is asking if it's available. The True Blue is available to us. Yes, we can buy Texas, Balcones Texas True Blue online right now is in stock. I was checking that very thing. And I do have to eat a wee bit of humble pie here. Everybody's screaming from the gallery, and they're absolutely right. I'll put myself on full screen to do so. I went and grabbed it off the shelf, and you won't be able to see it because it won't focus on it, will it? But it is. Johnnie Walker Green Label is 43% ABV, so let's set the record straight on that. And apologies, it is a 43% product, even in the UK. Good. Okay. So I think a remarkable variety there, a remarkable breadth of products, to a remarkable selection of, as you say, Ralfy, alternatives. Superb. Let's move on to Whiskey Bims is saying 3 ships, 12 would be a good choice. There's another category where 3 ships would be applicable, and that is World Whiskies, Stuart. Fantastic. Let's move into talking about the best distillery.
Oh my goodness.
All we are talking about here, these are established distilleries. These are people that are bringing experiences, and they are crafting product that adhere to things that are engaging the enthusiast. They're making high quality product that's available and affordable. That's what we're trying to celebrate here. That's the only parameters that we sent out. And here is what our peer creators sent back to us. Take it away, Ralfy. Best distillery.
Thank you, Roy. And the nominations are as follows. From the Isle of Arran, Arran Distillery. From Islay, Bruichladdich Distillery. Again from Islay, Bunnahabhain Distillery. From the Highlands, Deanston Distillery. Up to Speyside, or across to Speyside, depending where you are in the Highlands, Glenallachie Distillery. And south to Campbelltown, Springbank Distillery. Over to you, Roy.
What was amazing to me is the ones that almost made it through. We have clearly got a core group of distilleries that as a community, we are bonding and connecting with. Tell me, Ralfy, what is the theme of all of these 6 nominations and even the ones that didn't make it through? What's the background theme of all of them?
Rightio, buckle up, malt mates. I'll try and make this as brief as possible. What you're looking at are a range of smaller distilleries who are committing their investment to integrity bottlings, delivering the smell and taste experience that we want to buy into in the best possible way, and they're being noticed for it. These distilleries are not providing bulk volume for the blending brands. They are smaller distilleries committed to a new generation and investing in a generation of specialized, dedicated, single malt drinkers. And that is why the nomination list is the way it is when it comes to best distillery, according to the collective of onliners. Enough said.
Absolutely. And if you want to know what distilleries almost made it through but didn't, look in the live chat right now. It's being called out by the knowledgeable folk in the lounge. Bot Vid's son, it looks like Kilhoman he's shouting about. There's a few people mentioning Kilhoman, absolutely. Jake M. There's a few people shouting for Tobermory. Another one that's changed to more integrity presentation in recent years. Fantastic. So if you're interested in the other distilleries that we're bonding with, we could only nominate 6 for public vote, and these are the ones that made it through. As Ralfy was talking about here, they're shifting to focus on presenting their product as a single malt for single malt's sake. Even Bunnahabhain and Deanston that do still have contracts out there, they are year by year putting more focus on their single malt range and bringing it out as integrity. 2 of those distilleries, Bunnahabhain and Deanston, have had dalliances with reducing their brand. Deanston Sherry Oak, Deanston Kentucky Cask, and recently a Bunnahabhain Taiwanese exclusive release, the Bag Clun, or the Bacloon as it was called, Cam Bay. 40% ABV. Guys, this is a mistake.
Naughty.
Let's us be clear. The reason that you are nominated is not because of those releases. You have made your way into our hearts through fantastic malt whiskey. We don't even care that some of them, like Sturacher and Virgin Oak, come without an age statement because the quality is in the drinking experience. This is not an argument for age statement. It's an argument for quality.
Yeah.
When you reduce it, when you start to chase profit and you start to chase volume, it's your business. Do as you like. But my goodness, give it another label, give it another brand. Don't dilute Deanston, we love it. Don't dilute Bunnahabhain, we love it. Look at what Bruichladdich have done with their transparency. Arran, almost all the ranges bar 2 entry-level product is naturally presented. Glenallachie, the exact same. What a transformation at Glenallachie, and year by year it's getting better and better. And Springbank, the torchbearer for the entire industry. There is a reason. There is a reason that we cannot buy Springbank and it's
Very much
because
so.
of its reputation.
Yeah. Could I add, Roy, a wee message to the Bunnahabhain senior marketing team who are putting out 40% bottlings of Bunnahabhain? Ralfy speaking here, people. Listen up. Do not turn a silk purse into a pig's ear. It's a big mistake. Other distilleries are making mistakes. They'll never admit it, but it's affecting their profit. Go and find out about their experience. Stick to the quality, particularly when you've got it. Don't screw up.
And I think that's coming from emotion there, Ralfy, and I understand that because we love Bunnahabhain. We love the place. We love the distillery. We love the team. We love the people. To pick up a Bunnahabhain that is watered down, and it's an exclusive market release right now. G Whiskey is Jeff over in Taiwan brought this to our attention. He's got a review out there. If you want to watch his review, I recommend it. I mention it a bit later on as well. I go along and see what they think about it. This is a misstep. This is against the zeitgeist. We are not business people. We're whiskey enthusiasts. We understand that's a huge caveat. But my goodness, put it out as a different brand. Don't dilute Bunnahabhain. Don't damage Bunnahabhain, please.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Let's get off our soapbox and
Yeah.
put the wheels back on.
Roy, just to conclude, you and I and other whiskey commentators have a unique overview of the way things are developing. Any premium single malt Scotch whisky brand which has established a solid reputation, which is continuing to grow, if they disinvest in that, they will not be able to compete with future competitors who can undercut them on the price of production. To invest in disassembling your product is not an investment in any currency.
When I started, I'm sorry to make this about Bunnahabhain and Deanston, but when I started to enjoy whiskey 16 years ago, nobody was talking about Deanston, and Bunnahabhain was that other distillery on Islay that also made some whiskey. Now it's up there amongst the favourite Highlanders for Deanston, and it's up there amongst the favourite Islas. There is a reason for that. There is a reason for it, and it's because of the quality you've been bringing us. That's probably enough. Eric Waite is saying amen and buying us a wee dram. Thanks, Eric. Listen, if you agree with what we're saying, please hit the like button, because we know we're going to get a lot of flack here. We know we're going to get people coming in and disagreeing with what we're saying. You need to speak as a community. Use the dislike button if you disagree, and use the like button if you agree with what we're sharing with you tonight, please. Whiskey Central is saying Ian McMillan. Absolutely. Fantastic. Fantastic guy and a legacy there. Look at what Aaron's doing. Look at Brooke Laddie. Look at what Billy Walker's brought in at Glenallachie. But Billy Walker was always also part of the team that brought Deanston back to life. And if ever we need an example of how to do things, just look at Springbank. My goodness. Anyway, let's move on, Ralfy, because we want to celebrate the other luxury that we have in the Scotch whisky category. We have this wonderful concept of cask trading and brokerage, which means it's given birth over time to independent bottling, amongst other dynamics. And this is a fantastic way to have very different experiences with distilleries that either we don't normally get access to, or distilleries that we can compare official releases, vatted releases, to single cask experiences and small batch releases from indies, and it is an absolute privilege to do that. We live in exceptional times right now where the indies have become more expensive than the official bottlings, but that's not what we're going to dwell on tonight. What we're going to celebrate here is the independent bottlers that are able to bring us consistently good quality experience at good value and wide availability. This is probably the most niche category that we have, and we understand that a lot of you do not get access to these bottlings. It's absolutely a nature of the beast. These tend to be small outturns, and it means they don't often go very far. But when you get a chance to try your favorite products from indies, it is a wonderfully educational experience, and I'm for one, very glad to have these people bringing their own take on things.
Very
Ralfy,
much.
take it away.
Thank you, Roy. And the nominations are as follows. Adelphi Selection. Thank you. Douglas Lang and Co. Gordon and MacPhail. North Star Spirits. Signatory Vintage. The Scotch Malt Whisky Society.
Wow, I would say that this is probably the one that we might have been able to predict with the most accuracy beforehand. Remember, this is the nominations from our peer creators. Ralfy and I did also put forward nominations, but we were relying on our peers to vote for them. This is what came out of that refinement process. We were not allowed to vote for our own, of course. Same for everyone. I think there's a couple of omissions here that we would have expected to see here, but it can only be 6. And there are none in this lineup that I'm surprised to see. There's 5 long established. Well, 2 of them, Gordon MacPhail and Douglas Lang, are ridiculously long established. Scotch Malt Whisky Society, Signatory Vintage, much more recent in the last 4 decades. Adelphi in the last 2 decades, and a brand new one on the scene in the last 5 years in North Star. Wonderful variation there. I think most of the community will have been able to touch at least 1 or 2 of these releases. And if they can't, I hope they have the ability to do so in the future. Are you surprised by any of these, Ralfy?
Not at all. I think it represents a good cross-section of a very important part of the Scotch whisky scene, because it's not very long before those who graduate from the basic single malts, maybe from the blends to the basic single malts, to your Glenfiddich 12, your Glenmorangie 10, your Glenlivet 12-year-old, then or your Macallan 10-year-old, then get curious, malt curiosity. And that is curiosity not so much for the predictability and the consistency, relatively, of official bottlings, but for the permutations and versions that exist within the independent bottlers. And sure, there are particularly prominent names: Bowmore, Ardbeg, Lagavulin, if it ever appears, very rarely, where they tend to be very heavily premiumized by the independent bottlers. But also they can have fairly kind of off-the-radar distilleries that we just simply don't even see as official bottlings, like Glentochers, for example. And it's such a splendid single malt. Or Mortlach. You get some versions of Mortlach from the independent bottlers which are not so safe and rounded and engineered. They're more volatile, they're more dangerous, they're more daring, they're more extreme. And there's no doubt about it that the presence of the independent bottlers makes the Scotch whisky scene a lot more exciting, interesting, and dynamic.
Absolutely, absolutely. There's a lot of chat going on in the lounge as well. Whiskey with Molly Bennett saying, how close was James Eady to this list? There is lots that never made it through to the final 6. Think of Thompson Brothers, think of Charlton Whiskey, think of Cadenheads, my goodness. Think of Hunter Lang, think of Duncan Taylor. I mean, it's endless. There are so many indies out there that are all bringing fantastic takes on things. There can only be 6 in this lineup. Petehead makes a good point. Why is SMWS on the list? There is a subscription fee needed, so not widely available. I would counter that by saying, Frank, it is widely available because you can pay the subscription fee. What I would do is take your point and say to the SMWS, if you're charging a subscription fee for the privilege of being able to buy whiskey, because not everyone has access to a venue, make sure that you're competitive. Make sure that you're bringing equality, because you're not going to be able to charge a premium and charge the same prices for everybody else forever and a day. You have to bring value. Frank, that's maybe why you have chosen not to follow SMWS. My personal experience of SMWS has been, in the majority, positive, but this is now over to the public. Everyone can jump in and they can vote for their favourite of this 6. The instructions on how to do all of that will follow immediately. It's very simple, very straightforward. Okay, Ralfy, let's go in and talk about the best new distillery. Now, this is a big thing here because we are going through an unprecedented time where there's huge amounts of investment in whiskey. And we are seeing new distilleries popping up right, left, and centre. And that's been happening for about 7 or 8 years now. Longer, honestly, but it's become more concentrated in recent years.
Yeah.
What we're seeing now is these distilleries setting up not as a contract filler, not as something, whiskies for blends or whatever it may be, not bulk production, but craft presentation, premium products, putting the best foot forward. So it's going to be interesting to see what these nominations are in new distilleries and how this category morphs in the coming years. But a lot of these distilleries, despite some of the products coming out of them being youthful, are being embraced, shouted about, and celebrated. Absolutely. And there is a theme, there is a common theme, and once you share the nominations, we'll be able to discuss that. Take it away, my friend.
Yep, thank you, Roy. The nominations are as follows. Ardnamurchan Distillery, Kingsbarns Distillery, Lindora's Abbey Distillery, McNean Distillery, Torreveg Distillery, Waterford Distillery. Over to you, Roy.
Wow. It's almost like a who's who of recently released product. Now, all that we asked here, the only definition that we put in here is saying, look, there's a lot of new distilleries out there that don't have product out yet, and there's a lot of new distilleries out that's been out there for a while, the likes of Glengyle, the likes of Daft Mill, the likes of these that have been around for a while. We had to remember that these have to be things you can buy, they have to be available, and they had to have product available to buy in the last 12-month window. This is the 2021 awards, obviously. All of these meet that remit. But what strikes me, Ardnamurchan, Kingsbarns, Lindores Abbey, McNean, Torreveg, and Waterford, all, what's the theme here? This is striking. Nobody is starting a new distillery and putting out 40% product. Nobody is starting a new distillery and putting out chill filtration and colour. And what's happening here, and the reason these are being celebrated, is they are bringing premium product that is putting flavour first, quality first, texture, density of flavour, all of these things that are dear to us. They know that that is who their customer is, and they're bringing it, and we are lapping it up.
As a result of these distilleries' investment in the way they present their product, they are bringing premium character. And this is it. When you take the authenticity and integrity of presentation and the investment in identity of each individual distillery and the personality that they bring round their messaging out into the wider whiskey community, the international whiskey community, that engineers the visibility. And I think that this short list of nominations represents the visible new distilleries, which people are spotting and registering internationally, even though they're not necessarily available internationally. And if you were to sum it up in one word, it's authentic character.
I think that's right. Defining character, defining a style, defining their own style, carving out their own niche, building up their own community, their own fan base. Whiskey Throttle Daniel makes a great point. Jonathan Flowers also makes a good point. They're asking about North American distilleries. Dingle, they're mentioning that obviously 5 out of the 6 here are Scotch distilleries. What I need to remind everyone is this is the OSWAs, this is the online Scotch Whisky Awards, which means we are not exclusively awarding Scotch whisky, but it's the Scotch whisky community. That's the movement behind this thing. So it's inevitable there will be a bias towards Scotch malt distilleries. Waterford's in there is an Irish new distillery that's come in, making a very Scotch style product in the vein of Scotch, but doing things in a very disruptive, innovative, and quite a different way. However, we did not say this has got to be Scotch distilleries. So this was open to anybody to put in anything they wanted, and then it would be voted for by their peers. What's come out of this is just a natural product of the fact it's the Scotch whisky community that's voting for this. I encourage everyone, Ralfy and I will support your initiatives. If you step up to do a similar program in bourbon, in American whiskies, in Canadian, in Japanese, and Irish, and world whiskies, whatever it is you choose to do to celebrate quality in whiskey in a similar model as this, do I speak for you, Ralfy, that we will support it?
Absolutely, absolutely, because we're really testing the model here, but there's definitely a lot of scope for other spirit genres, including rum, including cognac, to take the template that we're developing here and testing and tailor it to their own requirements. And I'm going to make a prediction here that shortly we're going to see a similar format for bourbon, because Americans tend to be quite innovative with these things. It wouldn't surprise me at all. But we're happy to do the
bourbon
dry
scene
run, so to speak, Roy.
Yep, absolutely. The fastest growing scene in the whiskey community is bourbon right now. It's huge. It's exploding.
Yeah.
There's a huge amount of enthusiasm, passion, and knowledge behind it. I fully expect that something will grow from that. But there's all sorts of other categories coming out in North America too, and Canada. We're seeing whiskey sprouting out from everywhere, and when that comes and when it brings good value and availability along with that quality, we want to celebrate it. Can I just raise a wee glass? Isle of Rassay Distillery have come in here. They are not nominated. And they've come in and said, aye, we'll get there next time. Fair play to them. Alistair and a team out at Rassay, I'm going to raise a wee glass in solidarity with you. You didn't make it into the last 6 this time, but you're still putting quality front and foremost, transparency as well, and you're bringing it. And I have no doubt that you will get there in time. Let's raise a wee glass. Thanks for joining us tonight. Cheers.
To add to that, Roy, Rassay is on our radar.
Poured a wee glass of their Arrow 1 release. Very densely flavoured as well. It's striking to me through all the new distilleries how much flavour, how much intensity, how much quality they've been able to bring. And I stop myself from saying, oh, it's good for a young whiskey. It's just good whiskey, full stop.
Yeah.
The fact that it's young is incidental. Wonderful stuff, Ralfy. There's not much left to go. Only 2 categories left, my friend. Thanks for sticking with it. Let's move on to best world whiskey.
Wait a minute, Roy. What do you mean, thanks for sticking with it? It's an absolute joy. I'm thoroughly enjoying myself. And you let me get a wee rant in there in the middle.
Ralfy, you know the deal. If you come on here, anytime you come on here, the floor and the mic are yours. You say and you do what you want. Nobody is told what to say when they step behind the bar at the vPub.
Get on with it, Roy. Let's make this happen.
This next category is to highlight exactly the promiscuity of the Scotch whiskey community. The fact that we know that there are other wonderful whiskey experiences out there. And if you come away knowing that you've tried these other categories and you still love Scotch, then it's been a worthwhile excursion. You've reassured yourself that you're in the right lane. However, we encourage everybody, as Ralfy has talked about, alternatives. They may be alternatives or they may be international malt whiskies. The only definition here is that it's not Scotch. Anything is on the cards here. We want to know what world whiskey, as long as it's whiskey, are you enjoying? Take it away, Ralfy.
Thank you, Roy. And the nominations are Amrut Fusion Indian Malt Whiskey, 50% ABV. Balcones, Texas single malt whiskey, 53% ABV. Cotswolds Odyssey Barley English single malt whiskey, 46% ABV. Elijah Craig Barrel Proof Kentucky Straight Bourbon, 60% plus ABV. Redbreast Single Pot Still Irish Whiskey, 15-year-old, 46% ABV. Redbreast Single Pot Still Irish Whiskey, 21-year-old, 46% ABV. Over to you, Roy.
Wow. Wow, what a spread.
How cosmopolitan.
Cotswolds at £39, right up to a super premium, hard to get your hands on, but much celebrated Redbreast, 21-year-old Redbreast. There's not a lot of that stuff. There's not a lot of that stock hanging around, and that's why it's that price. Obviously, it's got to be good. We're talking value here. To spend £200 on something and still declare it value, that's one I would like to try. I have not tried. But what a spread we've got. We've got an English whiskey in here. We've got an Asian whiskey in here in the Amrut. We've got a Balcones, American whiskey, a single malt from America. We've got a bourbon as well. Again, on theme here, it's that high ABV bourbon, the bottle of Wow from the Scotch Test Dummies. They would call this the Elijah Craig Barrel Proof. Lots and lots of channels celebrating this much treasured release. And then we've got two from Ireland. Interestingly, both from the same brand.
Right,
now, of course,
sorry to interrupt, Roy. I need a whiz.
You go right ahead, and I'm very good. You
carry on without me for a few minutes. I need to go out
just
to the
make sure it's out of the bothy and there's no audio effects.
Absolutely. The peat bog's just outside. I won't be too long. Carry on without me.
Superb. Now, of course, the pot still Irish here are both Redbreast, but they're all from the same stable. If there'd have been Green Spot Powers and things as well, we are starting to see much more granular variety coming out of Ireland. I would have been interested to see more in the mix here. We did get a Teeling earlier on tonight, but clearly Redbreast has been celebrated. And look at the theme here. We've got 46% ABV for both the Irish single pot still Irish whiskies. We've got a high ABV Elijah Craig Barrel Proof bourbon. Balcones Texas single malt, one of the most densely flavoured whiskies I've had in recent times, at 53% ABV. Amrut Fusion, that fantastic idea where they would take the Scottish peated barley and they would distill it in India to bring us fusion at 50% ABV. Even the Cotswolds, a new distillery, an English distillery, bringing out fantastic, engaging whiskey at a good price and widely available, needs to be celebrated. They deserve to be there along with these well-established long-term brands. Quite amazing. Danny Hebbington is talking about the Isle of Man Waterworks. Well, Ralfy and I were gassing along for a long time before we went live tonight as well. So I may be handing over to him at some point in order for me to take a comfort break too. Fantastic. Okay, I'm going to move on and start to introduce the last category tonight in anticipation of Ralfy coming back to join us. This is the last one tonight, and this is where we celebrate what's at our hearts as a Scotch-loving community. All of these awards are born from our love of Scotch malt whiskey, so it makes sense that the final category should be to celebrate Scotch single malt whiskey. Daniel, Whiskey Throttle, is saying, Ralfy, another dram. His rants are my favourite. Hope to have a conversation with him, but men like Ralfy and I cannot converse publicly or recorded. I understand completely. And Alistair Gray is saying, Aquavite, more importantly, is there a quiz? You know, it is the OSWAs tonight, but it is also the vPub. And if I ever closed out a vPub without having a quiz at the end, there would be mutiny. If you are willing to have a wee bit of fun, tongue-in-cheek, laugh, bit of challenge, a bit of banana skins, ask questions, there is a 10-question multiple choice quiz at the end. There always is. I welcome anybody to hang out and play along. You only have to play against yourself. You don't need to share your score. Just have a bit of fun with it. Fantastic. Ralfy, we're in the final category tonight, the best Scotch single malt whiskey. We haven't defined this in any other way. We've not put a price limit on this. We've not put any other stipulation in that it's Scotch single malt whiskey. and it has to bring value. It has to be widely available, and it's going to represent what we believe is available and good value, the best the sector has to offer. And this is probably the most interesting of all the categories I've seen, what's come out of this. We're both quite pleased to see what's come out of this, but it's still very interesting, isn't it? Take it away, Ralfy.
This is our final category, Roy. And this we've saved, in a sense, we've saved the best to last, because we know that there's going to be an awful lot of attention focused on this particular category. And the nominations are as follows. Arran, 10-year-old, at 46% ABV. Glen-Scotia Victoriana at 54.2% ABV. Glenallachie 10-year-old cask strength at 55% or thereabouts ABV, any version. Laphroaig 10-year-old sherry cask, 48% plus ABV. Longrow 18-year-old, 46% ABV. Talisker 18-year-old, 45.8% ABV. Over to you, Roy.
What a spread. Absolutely incredible.
Each and every one of those. Any malt mate, anywhere, take your pick, any single one, good whiskies.
What is remarkable, there isn't a lowlander here, because we know that for years and years there were only two lowlanders. Ailsa Bay have come along more recently. Bladnoch coming back on stream again, fantastic. We're seeing the Borders, Annandale, all the Fife distilleries. The lowlands are really recovering and having a bit of a renaissance here. You saw them celebrated in the new distillery category. But every other region is represented here. We've got the Highlands here in the shape of Talisker. We've got Arran, also from the Highlands, both island distilleries. Campbelltown in the Longrow, Laphroaig and Islay, Speyside with the Glenallachie, and another Campbelltown in the Glen-Scotia Victoriana. So we've got a non-age statement here. We've got Laphroaig bringing out a 10-year-old at proper ABV, 48% ABV. So the full impact of Laphroaig can be enjoyed. What is the theme here? Once more, this is quite, I mean, if anybody needs a hammer blow example of what is really getting the whiskey juices flowing, it's these categories tonight. What's the theme, Ralfy?
The theme is pretty self-evident. We can start with the bottling strength.
Yes.
The fact is that the more experienced you get with whiskey over the years, the more anemic that a number of 40% bottled whiskies become. Now, I'm not criticizing them, because they're a great place to start the journey. And we need to give our palates time to acclimatize to higher strength whiskies before we can get them, understand them, appreciate them, enjoy them, and engage properly with them. But what we have here is a global online whiskey commentator consensus in the video platform of YouTube, which is stating that these 6 whiskies are definitive as to what the best of Scotch whisky single malts should be. And it's not...
While still providing... Notice the theme tonight. This is really important. We are not saying these are the best whiskies on any of the categories that you'll ever sip in your life. That's not what we want to celebrate. We want to celebrate the whiskies that I can buy here in Scotland, and you can buy wherever you are, and we can enjoy them together. These are available whiskies, because I'm telling you now that if you do hear about a unicorn whiskey that's the best whiskey that somebody somewhere has ever had in their life, and it gets 96 points, you're going to feel like your 87, 89 point whiskey, you're selling yourself short. You're not going to get the same experience that they're getting with their whiskies. That's not how whiskey works.
Yeah.
Whiskey
Having said,
is the thing that connects people. Sorry, Ralfy.
having said that, Roy, Longrow 18-year-old at 46% ABV is kind of hard to get at the moment, unless you're in the USA.
Well, what I notice is the new Longrow is out, and yes, as expected, £95 is that guide price. It's not you're not going to get, unless you've got legacy stock sitting on a shelf somewhere, which is very unlikely. It's impossible in the UK. Maybe in Europe and in North America, whatever, you might get some legacy at a better price, but that's already crept up a wee bit with the releases that's just gone out now. So that 95 and the website has been adjusted up a wee bit because we have to keep the prices realistic, honestly speaking. However, it's already been pointed out in the lounge that Longrow 18 is going to be hard to get hold of. Absolutely, it will be. However, it is widely distributed. You can get this right across the globe. It is a premium product and it is in small quantities. We didn't put a scale, a size, or an outturn limit on this.
True.
All we wanted to do was the ones that get international distribution are worthy to be celebrated. If you can do a bottle split, if you can exchange some samples, and if you can try a wee Longrow 18 and understand why it made it through to this final 6, fantastic. But look at the others. Look at Glen Scotia Victoriana, RN10. Look at Talisker, 18-year-old, and even the Lafroig 10 sherry cask finish. Huge outturns, huge distribution, widely available everywhere. The only exception is the Longrow 18 is going to be tricky for you, and any batch strength now. Such a reputation has been built on the back of Glenallachie's batch strength, 10-year-old, cask strength release, sorry. Those may be difficult depending on where you are to get a hold of. It's not for the want of trying. These are decent outturns. The theme has been strong tonight. People are engaging with, celebrating, and enjoying what we've been talking about as a community for a long time. And it's because we've drank our way around enough whiskies to understand that the most epiphany moments are brought along by whiskies that have much more natural presentation, that don't have anything taken away from them, and they don't have anything added. I think that is the takeaway theme tonight, with very few exceptions.
And if I could add, there are a few exceptions, and that is actually a testament to the fact that we're not being overly narrow about this. We've left it down to the vote and the input of our partner channels here, Roy. And you take that Talisker 18-year-old, it is chill filtered, but it's still a damn good single malt whiskey. And I have bought a bottle recently, and I will be reviewing it before too long.
Well, that is interesting because I tried to discover and I suppose it's typical of the company that produces Talisker 18, right, Diageo, that it's the transparency isn't there. I couldn't get a definitive answer on whether or not it was chill filtered. I would love to hear, but at 45.8% ABV, they choose not to chill filter it. That would be amazing. But unless, as you say, as we all know, if it's not put on the label, we just have to assume that it is chill filtered until they tell us otherwise.
It's called disclosure.
Listen, what I'm going to do is absolutely. What I'm going to do is grab the link for everyone, because I'm telling you now. I'll type it in here. This is live on the web. It should be live. I hope everybody sees it. I'm going to type it in to check that it's live. Nominations are live on the website. If you click on nominations, we should be able to see it. I need to go in and make a quick change. It is live. I need to take off the password protection. Fantastic. That I can do that now.
This is it, folks. You know, they're not scripted. This isn't edited. We're not in the BBC here. This is we're actually just winging it. And so far, so good.
The password protection has now been taken away from that website. You can now go on that website and you can now click on any of the categories. Underneath, there's a vote button that's going to take you through to the voting page. You'll then be talked through how to do it, how to sign in with your Google account, and how to go through the motions and click. Please, I need to re-emphasize this. Vote, but fill in that people's choice field underneath, even if it's duplicating what you've already voted for. That is going to be a mine of interesting, valuable feedback from the community of the things that we've missed, that hasn't fallen on the radar of 24 channels, that hasn't made it through the refinement process, things that you're really engaged with and enjoying. Lots of things have come out of this already. A renaissance from a renaissance from Fettercairn. People talking about the new Fettercairn releases at more natural presentation, interestingly enough. Royal Brackla getting that bump in presentation. Lots of distilleries stepping up, like the new range from Glenturret, being much more naturally presented compared to the old releases. These are being talked about. They were almost there. They just didn't make it through to the final 6. What's going to be interesting is to find out what you guys are enjoying out there in the community as well, and that's how we'll do it, through you using that people's choice function. I really thank you all for staying with us to this point in time. Thank you all for the unanimously positive feedback and support on this, because even if the ones that had words of warning or concerns, they just wanted to point out their concerns, they were still behind it. And if they thought we could make it work, they were behind us. For that, I'll be forever grateful. Thanks to all the contributing channels. Thanks to everybody for getting involved in the positive words. Thanks to retailers stepping up and saying this is a great initiative. We support it, like Royal Mile Whiskies. It's just the best intentions. It's over to you now. Go in, have a wee look, vote, feedback to us, and let's see what we can bring on the 6th of November. Ralfy, let's raise a wee glass. To this amazing community that we find ourselves part of, to this wonderful spirit that we all get to enjoy, to these amazing new projects that we're capable of pulling together simply because we're all pulling in the same direction. My friend and recent sidekick, this has been a pleasure. We've got to make it stick now, big guy.
We're nearly there, Roy. Hang in with the quiz. Once the quiz is done, we can chill out. We can kick our slippers off and just have a few more Scoobies. I'd just like to add to what you're saying here. Malt mates, thank you very much for joining us this evening at the vPub. We really appreciate your joining us, your presence, taking an interest, and of course voting, because of all the whiskey awards in the world ever, this is the most simply engaging with the whiskey customer who actually pays the money for the product. And this is going to send the most powerful message right back to the industry as to where they should make their future investments on a global level. Over to you, Roy.
Cheers to that, Ralfy. Cheers.
Cheers.
Whiskey with Molly Ben has bought us a dram to say thank you for doing this. The debate already flowing from this is justification enough that it was needed. We can only hope that the industry take note. Lots of the industry are already taking note. That's the greatest thing, Ben, is what we're actually doing is celebrating the really good people, the impassioned people, the people that put integrity and quality forward. That's what we are celebrating. It exists out there, and that's what we want to draw attention to. David Swift has bought me a dram from New Zealand. David, wonderful to have you in here. Took the day off to catch this live in New Zealand. Wow, great to see a genuine consumer-driven award out there. The standard is the standard. Thank you so much, David. That's amazing. Not only are you buying us a wee dram, but you're taking the day off to hang out with us as well. This is why I love this community. We will relax a wee bit. I'll be able to relax a wee bit because I'm hosting the quiz at the end tonight. Thank you, everybody who's not interested in staying for the quiz. Thank you for coming along and hanging out. Please, if you've enjoyed hanging out with us tonight, please leave a wee like behind. It does go a long way to helping us. It's one of the fabulous things about YouTube is that it also has a down thumb as well. It's the only social platform that has that down thumb. So if you need to use it, use it. But please consider using the up thumb too. If you are interested in a bit of fun, tongue-in-cheek, Ralfy's on board as well. He knows these quizzes are brutal. He's frustrated as anybody else with them as well. But it's just to have a wee bit of fun at the end. Please stay along. It's multiple choice, and it's you're only playing against yourself. Jimmy Legg has bought me a dram. Jimmy, you star. He said, I must say that this awards thing is fine, but I'd skip him just to sit down with a few hundred of you and have a not-so-quiet whiskey. I'll bring the Coquerin. Cheers, everyone. Jimmy, until that day arrives, and it will arrive, we make do with this, and I'm glad that you're a part of it. Thanks for your dram, my friend. Thank you so much. Jimmy Legg, Blair Conrad, cheers. For the quiz, I'm going to pour, and I've been pouring whiskies tonight that didn't make the cut, Ralfy. I'm going to be careful not to talk about whiskies that have been nominated in the 4 weeks that this nomination process is live, because I don't want to be in any way leading anybody's experiences or opinions. So I was drinking a Loch Lomond tonight. I was drinking the delicious Chardonnay yeast from Loch Lomond, one that I've really, really loved. I get through this whiskey far too quickly. I was also drinking, sorry, Ralfie, I was also drinking...
Wait a minute, it's my turn.
Sorry, I want to get mine out the way because I need to open a celebratory bottle, you see. I was drinking my beloved Glenturret 12-year-old as well. Nobody voted for this. I put it forward, and I guess it's not made it out there yet. I was hoping that somebody would pick this up.
I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why, Roy, because the label doesn't quite stick on properly.
It is a wee bit squinty. It is
a bit squinty. Oh, well, here's my choice this evening. Completely. And this is the Solera bottling that I've been discussing with my Patreon pals, supporters. I've just topped it up with a little bit of young Lechig 10-year-old. So it's taken it to a little bit more of the younger peaty side, and it's fascinating. Everybody and anybody can do this. This bottle has been in the go for over a decade now. You get a bottle of whiskey, you're nearly at the end of it, and you never let it empty. You start filling it up again, slowly and gradually, with the other bottles you're opening. You get blending experience, blending practice. It doesn't matter your budget. It doesn't matter your constraints. Everybody can do it and create an utterly, totally unique bottle of whiskey. And while you're at it, you discover flavors that nobody else, no matter their budget, can buy.
Here. Absolutely. It's something I love to do as well. If you screw it up, just leave it a few weeks. It's amazing how it comes back, right? I've had a couple of drams bought. Callum, a dram for such a slick presentation. Thanks, Callum, really. I've been through a lot of online award shows now, and this one was by far the best. Amazing stuff. Callum, you can come back again, my friend. Thank you so much. Glenn Anderson is saying, I have 5 whiskies to try before voting, and I have to try them all. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Glenn. Thank you so much for your dram. I'm going to open up a celebratory bottle, the best value in Scotch whisky right now. This is Annock 24, £115 for a fully naturally presented a 24-year-old malt whisky. I got through my last bottle of this far too quickly. I bought this on the back of it, and it's been waiting there shouting my name for a long time now. It is a celebration.
You're being totally self-indulgent there, and you're not even sharing it with me.
Absolutely. Ralfy, if you need a wee, I have a suspicion you have a drip of this on hand, my friend. But if you ever need any of this, look no further. Besides the point, that's a good point. Per Christensen has also bought a dram as well. Per, it's wonderful to welcome you in, my friend. It's always great to see you here, and thank you for your dram. Whiskey Jason, one of our collaborating channels, but a wee dram to say great stream. Thanks, Jason. Wonderful to have you here. And Pete Head Frank is saying, now that is a great whiskey. Cheers to everyone for your drams. Cheers to you, Frank. Cheers to Ralfy. This has been great fun. Let's get the quiz on the go.
Ooh. Quiz time. See that? Unchill filtered. Malt mates. Unchill filtered.
As if we haven't been banging the drum enough tonight, but you're absolutely spot on. Ralfy, good luck, my friend. Good luck. I know you're going to pitch in just the same as everyone else tonight. Good luck, everybody. The pass mark is always 5 on the quiz at the end. Over 500 of you hanging out. Please stay and have a wee bit of fun with us. Thank you all for staying up so late. I know it's very late for so many of you. Question 1. The Whisky Exchange has just released a book co-authored with Nick Morgan. But what's it called? Brand new collaboration between Dr. Nick Morgan, famously of Diageo heritage, But he's collaborated with the Whisky Exchange to release a book that's called what? A, Falling Down the Whisky Rabbit Hole. B, Whisky's Hidden Histories. Or C, Everything You Need to Know About Whisky, but are too afraid to ask. Jimmy Leg saying, votes are in, Aquite, easy. I would be surprised if there's voting coming in already. I think people need to digest it. They need to think about it. They need to measure in the fact that they have 4 weeks to do this. There's 4 weeks that this is going to stay live. There's lots of time to take your time and make sure that your vote counts for the things that's really important to you. Ralfy, what is Nick and Whisky Exchange's book called? C, Ralfy thinks it's called Everything You Need to Know About Whisky, but are too afraid to ask. The Lounge agrees with you, Ralfy, and everyone is absolutely right. Brand new book just released. Looks quite interesting. I haven't had a read at it yet. I do have one here. I bought it after Ralfy brought it to my attention. Actually, I picked up a copy. Joel is saying, hi from New Zealand. Kudos for putting this together. It's no mean feat and much needed. Take care. Long-time Ralfy subscriber and recent Aquavitae. Love your work. Joel, it's very, very nice to welcome you in here, and thank you for your recent subscription and also for your virtual dram, my friend. Thanks to you. Cheers. Question 2. The Friends of Lefroy initiative, where you can claim your own square foot of Islay, was founded when? Obviously, this is a club, a loyalty club, fronted by Lefroy, called the Friends of Lefroy. And as part of it, you get to plant a wee flag in a field in Islay and claim your own square foot. It's good fun. When was it founded? A, 1974. B, 1984. C, 1994.
With the price of real estate, Roy, I reckon that square foot of Islay's just got a lot more expensive.
In recent times.
Yeah.
Of that, there's absolutely no doubt.
I think I could lease my square foot out to the next distillery that's trying to open if they can find a corner, a bit of space to do so.
Yes. I really, oh my goodness, Ralfy, this has been live for all of about 6 minutes. We've got over 100 responses already on this vote.
Wonderful.
It's incredible. Okay, I'm not going to look at that just now. I'm not going to get distracted. Wonderful. Thank you all for your support. It'd be wonderful to see this thing succeed. Feedback to us if you're finding it smooth and straightforward enough. Ralfy, what do you think? When was the Friends of Lefroy initiative founded? Ralfy thinks C, 1994, and the Lounge thinks C as well. The Lounge and Ralfy are absolutely right. And remember, we talk about this channel a lot, how single malt, certainly single malt is a tourist attraction, and single malt is a big category, is a very recent phenomenon. This is less than 30 years old as a campaign. Helen is in saying, super idea, well done all. Please pour a huge heartfelt thank you to our fellow barfly for giving us a fabulous day today. Peter Lee Slancher. Superb when people get to meet in real life. Helen and Andy are up in Scotland right now, and we're looked after today by Peter Lee. Helen and Andy, I'm looking forward to having a chance to shake your hand this weekend too. Thank you for your virtual dram, and here is to barfly Peter Lee. Cheers. Question 3. We talked about this. G Whisky on YouTube recently brought a new 40% NAS horror story to our attention for the Taiwanese market exclusively. But it was from who? Was it A, from Fettercairn in the Highlands, B, Bunnahabhain on Islay, or C, Royal Brackla in the Highlands?
Excuse me, Roy, sorry to interrupt, but I noticed there's a banana skin there. What's all that about?
Well, the banana skin is now redundant since we spoke about it. But the banana skin was in there if we had not spoken about it tonight, because frankly, I'm shocked and surprised by this move. And I think most of the community would have been shocked and surprised by this move, which is why the banana skin is there. Thanks for pointing it out. It is now redundant. The Lounge has kicked this out of the park. You know what it is, Ralfy. Tell us what's happened.
I've made my opinion crystal clear on this issue. It's B.
Yep. Now look at the reaction on Jeff's face as well. This guy put out a video ranking all of the Islay distilleries, and he put Bunnahabhain as his top, as his favourite. And his justification for it was impassioned and warranted. I believed everything he said and he justified it well. And then he's got to follow up with a video like this.
Mm-hmm.
We've probably flogged poor old Bunnahabhain enough.
No,
we are
I'm not
taking
quite finished yet. I'm not quite finished, Roy. Could I just make a wee additional comment? Distilleries really need to be very cautious when they are presenting their product to market, that when it has been experienced at 46% or higher strength, unchill filtered, natural colour in an integrity presentation, the psychological effect of the emotive sensations of smell and taste are such that when it comes in at 40%, and there's definitely 9 times out of 10, in fact 10 times out of 10, chill filtered at 40%, and probably coloured too, the impact is more dramatic than if they had never bottled at an integrity presentation in the first place.
Unfortunately,
that style of presentation is going to be heavily discounted on Amazon in November in order to sell. It is a very dangerous move for any distillery to make, is to dumb down their product after they have elevated it. I'm finished.
I think the problem here is that whiskey, unfortunately, for everyone involved, is very close to our hearts, and we become very emotionally invested in it. This is not a reflection on the distillery. The Bunnahabhain is a wonderful spot in the world, a wonderful distillery, a wonderful team, and they make fabulous product. This is a problem with how that product makes it into the market.
Absolutely.
Let's be clear about that. Superb. Top Shelf Dustin is saying there isn't a no vote for best Scotch single malt 2021. Ah, that's interesting. Do you know, Dustin, if I can, I'm going to go in and change that now. Let me see if I can do that, because it's important. A mission, Ralfy and I, despite our finest of fine-tooth combs, Ralfy, we never picked that up. Let's see.
It is the inaugural awards, and
that's what
we have been doing, actually. If I could just explain to the viewers, you and I, day after day, have been having Zoom meetings, averaging about 2 hours.
Some days. Oh, yeah. Dear. But we've got there. We've got there in the end, and we've beaten down every barrier. Hopefully, if you, Dustin, if you refresh your page, hopefully you're seeing a no vote option there on the final one. Thank you so much for helping us and pointing that out. Superb.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to the question. For what reason has Diageo offered for the story behind Talisker's unique ABV of 45.8%? Not all Taliskers, the majority that are cask strength Taliskers. There have been Taliskers released at less than 45.8, but you associate 45.8 as the Talisker ABV, and what is the story, proffered by Diageo? Is it A, it's to do with their still shape? B, it's from a traditional preferred strength that became enshrined in history? Or C, it's a line of latitude? Talisker's ABV is 45.8. What's the reason for it? To do with the still shapes, because of a historical record, or because it's a line of latitude?
Oh, don't want to be jumping the script here. I was about to pop up my answer, Roy, and then I realised people are still making their minds up.
Can we have a wee shout out to Francis Cuthbert over there in Daftmill, who's going against the grain and proffering that it's from a traditional preferred strength, a record in history. Francis Cuthbert, we know, is the man and the gentleman behind Daftmill, a fascinating guy to speak to too. The lounge is absolutely demanding that it's a line of latitude. Ralfy, what say you? Can I call you on this? B, you agree with Francis?
I do.
57 degrees north is the Talisker release that celebrates their line of latitude. There is actually a late 19th century record of Talisker that suggested that it be bottled at 45.8% as the optimal strength to preserve its character, and they've kept it like that ever since. I will admit that I got involved in this in a forum discussion. I was following it, and I was really surprised by this, and I registered it at the time to make a really interesting quiz question, because I also believed that it was a latitude thing, and that's why the banana skin is in there. 57 North is no longer available. It's absolutely right. It was a cracking Talisker release. Question 5 is always a picture. It's always an image. We're looking here at a distillery somewhere in the world. Very pretty picture. What distillery are we looking at? Are we looking at A, Cotswolds Distillery, B, Spirit of Yorkshire Distillery, or C, the Lakes Distillery? Clearly we're in Englandshire here. Which of the 3 distilleries are we looking at?
Englandshire. Englandshire. That was a bit condescending.
No, I mean it tongue in cheek. Absolutely. We're clearly. By the way, I have to say that I have yet to come across an English whiskey in the last 3 years that's been anything other than sit up and pay attention.
Absolutely.
They're doing things that the Scotch whisky industry, the Irish whisky industry, everywhere are going to need to take notice. It's small scale right now, but they're bringing premium, high quality, engaging spirits. Quite amazing. Ralfy, what do you think we're looking at here? Do you recognize this?
I think I do. C, Lakes.
Lakes. The Lounge is also thinking it's the Lakes. Top Shelf Dustin saying Aquavita, the best Scotch single malt 2021 now has option 7 and then no vote. Option 7 needs to go to, you're a star, Dustin. Thank you for keeping me right. Let me jump back in as I tell everybody that we are looking at the Lakes.
Hey!
Before our whiskey. Which whiskey was named Best in Show at the 2021 San Francisco World Spirits Competition? That's the SFWSC.
That's some other award somewhere.
Yeah, it's exactly on theme with tonight. I'm asking, which got Best in Show?
Right.
A, Glen Scotia, 25-year-old. B, Glengoyne, 25-year-old. C, Glenallachie, 25-year-old. Dustin, you star. Hopefully that is floating your boat and it's working well now. It's the most important category as well. You need to get it right. I've been messing that one up a wee bit. Ralfy, do you know this? Do you know what won Best in Show at San Francisco this year?
No, I'm taking a calculated guess, because if it's the San Francisco World Spirits Competition, it's going to get a lot of publicity in the mainstream media. And the one name that has cropped up has been Glen Scotia, 25-year-old.
Oh, Ralfy, you're right. It's Glen Scotia. It is Glen Scotia.
Oh, what, am I right again?
Now, what's amazing here is a distillery that was volatile and risky 10 or so years ago is now being talked about more and more and more. Frank Peathead recently took a trip to Campbelltown. This was a pilgrimage for him because he loves his Springbank and his Kilkerran, and he loves Glen Scotia too. But he went there, and his words were, Frank, I hope you don't mind me quoting you. I went there thinking, oh yeah, Glengyle and Springbank, and there's Glen Scotia too. And he left thinking, Glen Scotia, oh yeah, and there's Springbank and Kilkerran too. That's huge, isn't it?
Well, it's worth bearing in mind that you and I can clearly remember when Glen Scotia was famous for its anonymity. It was noticeable for the distillery, for being the distillery at Campbelltown, that people didn't even know existed. And there was a core of about 3 or 4 staff who actually just kept that place going and did a fantastic job. But the stills weren't even cleaned. They were called the black stills. They weren't polished. It wasn't presentable. It wasn't one of these glitzy walk-through distilleries. It was absolutely jobbing distillery stuff. And yet, in the record books back in the 1920s and 30s, the master blenders rated Glen Scotia as a better quality blending malt than Springbank.
Absolutely.
It is
Crispina,
wonderful. It is
Crispina,
wonderful to see it revived, and importantly, it just shows how it simply wasn't invested in by the previous owners. Shame on them. And
good
their
to see
lack
it
of
rectified
vision.
now. Good to see good value product coming out, the Glen Scotia 15. You might remember Ralph and I both picked it as our Campbelltown choice a few weeks ago when we talked about regions. And yes, if it's been a while since you visited, understandably the volatile and fickle Glen Scotia, it's a different animal now. Chris Mina has joined the Aquavite Barflies. Chris, thank you so much for your support and welcome. Petehead Frank is reaffirming and saying correct, Aquavite. Fantastic. I want to just quickly no, I've missed it. That's okay. I'll catch it in a second. There was a comment there that I wanted to read out, but it was quite long. Question 7. TWE has recently been sold to Pernod Ricard. This is a big story, which also includes which of the following. So as part of the Whisky Exchange sale that is now going to be owned by one of the biggest producers. This is very odd. This is very odd. It also includes which of the following. What has been sold alongside the Whisky Exchange? A, Elixir Distillers. So Elixir are responsible for Port Askig amongst other ranges. B, Whisky.auction, an auction site, a whisky auction site. Or C, Speciality Brands, responsible for various brands and on-trade sales, I believe. Not fully aware, but these are 3 Whisky Exchange properties. One of them has gone along with the sale. Ralfy, do you know about this?
I think I'm aware. I think it's quite interesting that certainly in the official statement, the Singh brothers, Sukhinder and his brother, remain as directors, but it's never clarified in exactly what influential capacity. I suspect that Pernod Ricard, being a corporation and knowing the way they work, is that there will inevitably be changes sooner rather than later. It will be interesting to overview it. But I do think that the corporations are making purchase decisions not necessarily because they want to spread their net, but they want to restrict their competitors from having the opportunity to spread their net. But having said that, these corporations invest and have closer ties in each other than is generally admitted publicly. So it's a lot more, there's a lot more behind the scenes than we're generally made aware of.
I think it was interesting that the most insightful article that came out about this came out from Angus McRailed, right? The Whiskey Sponge. You know, his satire piece was probably the most insightful piece that came out to cover this story. It is a wee bit worrying, and I think it's okay and understandable why we would be worried about such a move. But it remains to be seen what actually happens. Ralfy, what do you think has been sold alongside TWE and what has been left alone?
There we go.
Ralfy thinks C, Speciality Brands. Ralfy, this is the first one you've slipped up on, my friend. Speciality Brands. It stays intact. Whisky Auction goes along with the sale, and Elixir Distillers, because they're the guys behind the distillery on Islay as well, they remain a part of the scheme. Can I just say, this has been the biggest vPub that we've ever had in terms of traffic. That was always fairly inevitable. It's also the biggest vPub we've had for down thumbs. All I'm asking, please leave your down thumbs. Leave them if you need to leave them. If you like this stream, leave your up thumbs too. It helps a lot.
Down thumbs, Roy? What are down thumbs?
Yeah, we've never had double figures while we're being live. It comes with the territory, Ralfy. It comes with the territory, and we're very grateful to have the down thumbs as an indicator inside YouTube, aren't we? Graham Young's on 7 out of 7. Sorry. Oh, Johan Lundberg, lots of people on great scores tonight. That's fantastic. And again, it just hammers home what I've been talking about, that the community are so knowledgeable. Thank you for hanging out and playing along tonight. Question 8. Kilchoman has just launched. This is amazing. It's 11th edition of their 100% Islay edition has come out. 11 editions. I want to ask, how old is it? Kilchoman on Islay. Is it A, a 4-year-old 100% Islay? Is it B, a 6-year-old 100% Islay? Or C, a 9-year-old 100% Islay? The 11th edition of 100% Islay. So this is Islay barley. This is everything done on Islay. This is a release that comes out annually every year. It's amazing that they've done 11 of these now. Kilchoman is now one of the old new distilleries, if that makes sense. Thomas Elmer is saying, Aquavita, it's all the bourbon drinkers upset with the awards. No, we'll support bourbon drinkers doing their own awards because they have the expertise and the community to power that initiative. We are the Scotch lover community and we don't. So that makes perfect sense. Ralfy, do you know how old the newest 100% Islay edition is?
It's either B or C. I'm not 100%, Roy, but I'm going to err on the side of caution because it was a few years we're up and running before the 100% Islay thing. So I'm going for B.
You slipped on the banana skin, my friend. It's a 9-year-old minimum product.
Damn.
27 casks ex-bourbon, and I think 26 casks ex-bourbon and 7 casks of ex-sherry. I can't quite remember, something of that order. Minimum 9 years old. It's a non-age statement release. It doesn't say that on the bottle, but I think it's amazing that Kilchoman now are putting out 100% Islay, though a 9-year-old product stock in it. And they're on their 11th release. Yet another distillery that I'm surprised didn't make it through tonight. A huge hit with the fans. Surprised not to see Kilchoman celebrated.
Could I just add to that, Roy? I think it's with the lack of age statements, the lack of transparency.
Well, they will tell you what's behind it, but they will not put the makeup because of labelling issues with the SWA. So if you read the press, if you're part of the kind of community that follows Kilchoman, you can discover what's in the releases, but they can't list it on the label. I think I wanted to draw attention to the fact that, hey, if you're looking for a mature Kilchoman, you're getting it now. A 9-year-old Islay whiskey, 100% Islay product as well, is 9 years old. That's something of note. You know, you talk about whiskytube is growing up. These new distilleries are growing up. Kilchoman's established. It's a tour de force in peated whiskey now and in quality presentation. Question 9. Which of these online Scotch Whisky Awards contributor channels was established in 2012? 2012 was 9 years ago. So it's the Kilchoman is 9 years old. This channel is as old as that 100% Islay Kilchoman that's just been released. A, Whiskey Wednesday. B, Bill, the Whiskey Dictionary. C, Scott and Bart, the Scotch Test Dummies. A, Phil, and previously Joe at Whiskey Wednesday. B, the Whiskey Dictionary, Bill. C, Scotch Test Dummies, Scott and Bart. Which of those channels has been going since 2020?
2012.
Oh, sorry, 2012. Thank
2012,
you for.
Yeah.
That's why I like having somebody running shotgun. I've got Ralfy and I've got Dustin helping me out tonight in the mistakes that I'm inevitably making. This is splitting the crowd. This is a banana skin. Ralfy, I was amazed over the discussions that we've had over the last 6 months, how knowledgeable you are about whiskytube. You do keep a wee eye on everything that's happening out there. And it warmed my cockles to hear your positive comments about a lot of the channels and creators that's out there. You are very much part of it. We do, and I've flattered you before, we talk about traveling in your wake. It does happen. It is a thing. You were the one to take it on the chin for years while you were the one out there just being this kind of novel thing, this new idea. And lots of people have followed in your footsteps, and you've tenderized the terrain ahead for us.
I've tenderized the terrain.
Yes, you've taken the hits so we don't get hit so hard. You've taken the sting out of a lot of this and made it an acceptable way to share whiskey. So I know I speak for all the channels when I say thank you for that. But the fact that you're also watching us and enjoying our content and using that bi-directional thing that we talk about is also encouraging for me to hear as well. Anyway, lots of people seem to think this is Whiskey Wednesday. What does Ralfy think? Who's been around since 2012?
Do you know, I'm struggling here because back in 2012, I just focused on what I was doing, and that was basically it. I mean, I was over here in the Bothy in 2012, but I just kind of tended to stick to my own corner. I'm really going to take a guess. It's either B or C, and I'm thinking it's
A.
C, but I could be wrong. It could be B.
It is. When you said it's either B or C, it is actually Whiskey Wednesday, a UK channel putting content out since 2012, 9 years now. Fantastic. Still putting out content there. A collaborating channel in this initiative as well. Fantastic. Bill at Whiskey Dictionary, 2015, 6 years old now. Scotch Test Dummies, an 8-year-old channel, 2013. Quite amazing. It's becoming quite a mature platform now. Let's have a wee look in the lounge here, see how the scores are doing. Andrew Butler, of course, 9 out of 9. Quite amazing. Andrew Boom Shankan, or Bomb Shankan, that looks like a new name, on 9 out of 9 as well. What a score. Fantastic. Good to welcome you here. Per Christensen on 8. Malt Minion Chuck on 8 as well. Superb. Whiskey Central Shayla is 8, and Shayla was also shouting at you. She was calling you the OG, the Jedi Master, and the GOAT. Do you know what the GOAT is? It's an internet term for the greatest of all time. So there you go. That's Shayla Whiskey Central. Yes, the GOAT. It's an acronym.
Nobody would say that when they're sober.
Wow, Reb Mordecai is up and he's still in the chat. It's 2:35 a.m. in Israel. Thanks for a great evening. I have 3 hours sleep left. Reb, I need to shake your hand the next time you're in the UK. You star, thank you for staying up and supporting tonight as well. Thank you for giving up on sleep. I hope you have a chance to catch up on it over the course of the weekend. Ralfy, how are you scoring tonight? I think you've slipped up.
First of all, my apologies to Whiskey Wednesday for getting that wrong.
Yeah.
It just shows you I'm kind of giving an overview, but I'm still slightly out of touch and detached here in the Bothy in its remote location. But so far,
you know, fibre and broadband internet has only recently made its way across to the Bothy, right? So you can be forgiven. Don't worry.
I've got 5 out of 9.
Oh, 5 out of 9. Oh, I thought you were wrong. I thought you were 6 out of 9. Ralphie, you can relax now. Pour that dram and enjoy it. You're on a pass mark. You're over the finish line. Anybody that needs 5.
No, I'm not. My score's crap.
Okay, in that case, the last question is usually an ass
make
hat.
it easy.
Is it an ass hat tonight? Unfortunately, yes, it's a bit of an ass hat tonight. Bum Shankan is saying, thank you, so glad to be here tonight. Such a red letter day. Wonderful to welcome you. Whiskey Central is saying, I am 100% sober and only having tea. You're currently in Portugal. You're probably still trying to shake off a wee bit of jet lag, Shayla. I hope you're enjoying Europe. And Andrew Butler is saying there's at least 3 more on 9 out of 9. So we're going to see some 10 out of 10 celebrations, I hope. Good luck, everybody, if you're holding out for a 10 out of 10. Here comes the ass hat question.
Well, I was hoping the question, Roy, would be name a whiskey that Diageo chill filter.
Oh dear, we're holding out for the cynicism right at the end. We want to keep this positive, but we got our wee dig in there.
Absolutely, got to be a wee dig, but we'll keep it positive. It was a positive dig.
Ardnamurchan's theoretical capacity is approximately 500,000 litres of pure alcohol, 500,000 litres. But what is their target for 2021? Anybody tuning in last week would have picked this up. About the same as the theoretical capacity of A, the Isle of Harris Distillery, B, Ballindalach, Edenmill and Knocknain all combined, or C, half of Jura's theoretical capacity. So now I'm not asking what Ardnamurchan's capacity is. I'm telling you that it's 500 litres, 500,000 litres, sorry. What is that the same as? It's about the same as the theoretical capacity of A, the Isle of Harris Distillery, B, a combination of Ballindalach, Edenmill and Knocknain all combined, or C, half of Jura. Ralphie, don't look at your malt whiskey yearbook. Just tell us what the answer is. Give it a guess. Are you going to make 6 or are you going to stay on 50%? Commit.
Give it a guess, Roy. C.
Half of Jura. I can tell you that Ralphie has made a pass mark tonight, but he's not been able to advance his 5 out of 10. I think he gets 6 out of 10, actually. I think he only got 3 wrong, but we'll have a recount on the replay. He's wrong. It's not half of Jura. 2.4 million litres theoretical capacity for Jura, which would give them half, would be 1.2. Ballindalach, Eden Mill, and Nickneen are all 100,000 litres each, so that's 300,000. Isle of Harris is 400,000 litres, which matches the capacity target, despite their production downtime that they had last week when we were there, of 400,000 litres at Ardnamurchan.
Are Isle of Harris really that big?
It's amazing, right? Now, they may not be running at that. This is theoretical scale, plant size capacity. So
it's a guess.
Yeah. So that's what they claim their capacity is. Now, the same as Ardnamurchan is 500,000 litres, but this year they're targeting 400,000. This is our gradual thing to ramp up. Every day, we saw what happened at Ardnamurchan last week. They lost their stoner and it halted the entire production, which is how we managed to film or broadcast from the still house. So these things come along. It's part of distillation. It's a very, very fraught process at times. So they can make 500,000 litres, all things being well, but their target in 2021 is to meet 400,000 litres. Let's jump in and see how everybody's done.
Right. Could I make a wee observation here, please, Roy, before you conclude?
It sounds like it's going to be... Okay, go ahead.
Rightio. Your microphone has worked perfectly this evening. Therefore, any issues with it is not a Ralfy gremlin. Okay. I just want to put that out there for public disclosure here. It's absolutely fine.
I have to say...
We actually had a code word. If Roy had microphone issues, I'd just say the word gremlin, and then Roy would know that he'd had to unplug his microphone and put it back in again. But it hasn't happened, Roy, so it's something else that's causing the problem.
It's not always things of trouble. Usually, if there's a problem and there's blame, it's usually going to be me. It's going to be my fault. Absolutely. I'm a wee bit sad that I can no longer blame Ralfy for any technical hitches that happen. Falsgraf has managed a 9 out of 10. He's saying he got the ass hat tonight. Robert Fredrickson on 7 out of 10, still a great score. Marku Makinen, 6 out of 10 at highs. Still something to celebrate. Ben Whiskey with Molly on a 6 as well. Andrew Butler managed a slip up as well. Didn't get his 10 out of 10 tonight, got a 9 out of 10. Is there anybody on a 10 out of 10? Odd Johan Lundberg got a 10 out of 10, and he's celebrating the GOAT, the greatest of all time. Somebody got a 10 out of 10 tonight. That's fantastic. Whiskey with Molly Bennis saying, wonderful stream, guys. I don't know if you can see the YouTube chat, but it is fully littered with Ralfy emojis. Anybody that's joined the Barflies, you've got access to a Ralfy emoji now. Please use it just to say thanks for Ralfy's idea, Ralfy's dedication to this, Ralfy heading this thing, Ralfy rallying the troops and getting behind it, and basically doing and acting on his words.
And Ralfy getting 5 out of 10 in the vPub quiz and being absolutely trounced by all the malt mates.
It's humiliating. It's exactly why
I'm just going to have to go and kind of have another whiskey to cope with all this.
No, you have the whiskey to celebrate the pass mark and celebrate the humility. We had to show how knowledgeable our audience is. We had to show that this is bi-directional, peer-to-peer, that we learn as much from them as they learn from us, and that we are not standing here as experts. We're fellow enthusiasts. We're impassioned. We're willing to get on camera and take a pass mark straight in the chin. Yes. Absolutely. The place is flooding with Ralfy emojis. Thank you all so much. I cannot believe how many has stuck out throughout tonight. We're knocking on for a 3-hour stream. That is quite incredible. Ralfy, usually I'll drop my guest into the background and I say a wee thank you, but I think both of us tonight need to raise a glass to say thank you, the last drop of my delicious Anok 24, to say thank you to everybody for their positive words, for their support. Thank you for the trust from everyone, especially our collaborating channels. Thank you for the humility of the channels that are stepping up and hope that they can get involved, and they believe in this. They want to be involved in the future. Thank you to everybody for believing that such a thing could be created. Thank you as well to Stuart at Whiskey Whims, who's bought a dram to say, interesting time, guys. Wish all the best in the endeavour. Not everyone will agree with some choices, but you're clearly trying to achieve something special here. Have a dram each. Thank you, Stuart. It's not here for everybody to agree. It is here for everybody to have a voice, Stuart, and you're one of those voices, my friend. Everybody raise a wee glass. You're all dearly loved. Thank you for your positivity. Thank you for your support, Ralfy. Thank you for breaking covenant and trusting us.
Right. And thank you for everybody who left a thumbs down on the vPub tonight, because we know it's just your way of showing how much you care. Thanks, Roy. Cheers, everybody.
Cheers. I look forward to welcoming you next week, and we'll be discussing whiskey education with Rachel McNeil from the Isle of Whiskey Academy. Cheers, Ralfy. Cheers, you beautiful whiskey folk. You're all dearly loved. I'll see you in a week's time. Thank you for hanging out with us tonight. Good night.